3 sets of minutes this afternoon. I'm sure folks might
Have
not
not
have
gotten a
seen
chance to look
them.
at them.
I'm sure. So what were they? They were
December
December
7th.
2nd.
November 4th, 18th, and December 2nd.
November 4th, 18th, and December 2nd. Okay. Well, that's it, Valerie?
Correct.
For the addition?
For the additions?
No, don't we have
Oh,
the
and
hub,
also,
the grant for the hub?
Under consent agenda, item 4, I recommend adding a request for a grant authorization to the Vermont After School from the Teen Center.
Teen Center. After school program.
It is outlined in the TA report.
Okay. Overview of the Zoom meeting operations, procedures, and rules of participation. People out there, as you remember, we got hacked a few months ago. So you go into the chat room and then Ian recognizes you and we put you in. So keep your microphone on mute and be recognized by the chair. Public forum, 5 minutes per person in the audience. It's something that's not on the agenda, not a voting item, just who'd like to speak about it. Anything out there? Jimmy?
Again, Val, good luck. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, and I would take that lead into that is, this is Valerie Capel's, our town administrator's last official select board meeting. Been with us 7+ years, done a fantastic job, and I wish her and Brian all the best wishes over the mountain, and you know, it's not that far over a summer drive. Come on over and visit and sit on the park
You betcha.
and enjoy it, but it's been
She won't
nice
be
having you.
missing that drive.
No, I said in the summer months. I said in the summer
No.
months. It was like that winter mountain. I don't blame her.
Thank you.
But thank you very much for all your help these 7+ years. Anything else? Department head roundtable. Let's start with Eric. Eric, anything?
No,
Saw you this morning early, then you back
no,
out again.
just normal stuff,
So we'll stop you.
nothing major or new.
Okay, Sharon? Anything?
Just that we did the crossover with the new account numbers in Nemrick. So we'll be sending out the categories and what goes in them for the different departments, and we'll start working on budgets.
Okay. Bruce is up there.
Is that a good thing, Chair? I assume
No.
that's a good thing.
That's a
So
big-
far, so far. Just took me a little while to do the invoices today, because I had to change the numbers.
Thanks. Bruce, anything from your side?
Oh, hang on, sorry. Ian's gotta do his.
He has gotta unmute you.
Yes, I can just-
He's unmuted.
There you go, Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep,
And
you
now,
can.
All right. Thank you. So things have been a little busy for us. First, I want to thank the public for all the information, the tips, the phone calls, the information that we continue to receive in our shooting investigation, and also all of our law enforcement partners. Multiple agencies continue to work on the case with us, and we'll keep going. But other than that, it's business as usual.
Good, Bruce, thank you. Anything for the department heads from our group, Chris?
So been working heavily on trying to figure out healthcare insurance for the employees. Have been registering for our end of year stuff through all of the federal agencies, which is getting more and more. And the water rate conversion is complete, and hopefully the first round of bills will go out in a week or two.
Okay, great. I don't see anybody else on up there.
no,
No, okay. Consent agenda. Approval, number 1, approval of GPI Basin Street Improvement Municipal Project Manager contract amended to extend from ending of December 31st, 2025 to December 31st, 2027. Number 2, authorized to close the town offices from noon Tuesday, December 24th through Friday, December 27th, 2024. and Wednesday, January 1st through Friday, January 3rd, 2025. Number 3, approve request to install a memorial plaque on a refurbished bench at Holly Hall for Megan Thomas, Adrian Leanne.
And then number 4.
Leanne. And number 4, grant for the teen center after school program. I don't know if that's a match or anything.
It's
so-
it's in the TA report, and no match is required.
No matches required, then, okay. Anybody have any? And I may add to the public, the closing of the office would be a Thursday, both days coming back, because the office is closed Friday, but this, I just have a question. They were gonna use it's not gonna be paid time off. They're gonna use their own CTO.
Those,
vacation
some
time.
folks might still come in but the office will be closed.
Okay, to the public.
Yeah, my only problem with that is working where I work, we do a lot of end of year closings, and it is a pain when the town clerk's offices are closed, because we don't have access. You know, the online records are fine, but if you have to get anything in, it's just hard to do, but, no, I get it. I get why they're asking for it,
Would
it's
it
just a
be,
pain.
would it be better than to have them come in on Friday, January 3rd, but take the other day, all the other days?
No,
off?
because if we're closing, we have to close by
Doesn't
December 30th or December 31st.
Mm.
They all want to close before the end of the year.
Right,
So that's the problem for us. But I mean, having the holidays in the middle of the week is just tough anyway,
yeah.
when you're trying to work that stuff out. So
Folks need to plan ahead.
unfortunately, my time frame doesn't work that way, but yes, I
Tell
know.
that to the banker and the post office. They gotta plan ahead. You can't come get your money.
I
That
move
wouldn't
that
go over
we,
very well.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to
I have a
accept.
couple of other questions.
Maybe go
Um,
ahead.
The hub grant. I read that they want to extend the hours. And so my question is how is that going to happen? How are the grant funds going to help that? And then once the funds are gone, then what happens? Do they go back to the current hours?
I don't know the answer.
Because if they're asking for extended hours, are they then gonna ask for more in their budget to keep those extended hours, and who's doing the extended hours? You know, because we already extended somebody's hours, didn't we?
Jackie's.
Jackie's right,
For the Bristol Elder Eagles.
yeah. I mean, which is fine, but I'm just saying, are these extended hours for her, or who's gonna be doing those extended hours? And then once the
Yeah,
grant's
are we
gone, then
thinking they're
what?
gonna be permanent or are we?
Right,
I mean, they will have to request that from us though, so we can intervene. at
well,
that
they put it in the budget, we may not know why they're putting it in the budget.
point. I will-
I hope it's you pretty soon.
I mean, I'm okay with grant funding for it. But yeah, if it goes in the budget, then we want to have that conversation.
And then my question on the memorial plaque, I mean, how do we normally do this? Because
Comes before us.
Huh?
Comes before us.
well, I know, but I'm just trying to think, how do we decide what plaques get allowed, what don't get allowed
We haven't had a tremendous amount of requests. We had one,
on the park?
yeah,
I
on the
remember
park.
that.
And that was, we had the same discussion then, and it was, I think just the amount that we get is so
Mhm.
few, it's just a
Mhm.
case by case basis.
I guess
That's, and I think you're exactly right, and we left it at that,
Yeah.
saying if we got more, then we'd
Yeah.
have to do something about it.
Right, and that's my concern, once we start
Once we
getting,
start.
I guess
getting more, it's,
I was wondering, I know Megan had a lot to do with the library. Why isn't it at the library? That's all I asked.
So Aiden redid all the benches,
yeah, I know we
and
do.
that's where his tie is. He was very, very close with Megan personally, and he just felt that this was the right, for him personally, it was a good
Mhm.
Okay.
tribute.
Is there a bench over at the library?
There is,
Not,
There
well,
is?
but I think it's already has,
Has a plaque on
I
it?
believe so.
and there's
Can you
like,
put more than one?
there's just the little building one next to the little, the mini library, you know, the lending library out front.
Yeah, we have others out there. I don't, and I don't feel we get enough of them that
Yeah,
it's a
I
big.
mean, we only
issue.
have so many benches. It's hard to put plaques on the heavy metal ones. We've only really done plaques on benches that have been the sort of
My-
wider slats and wood.
Yeah, I mean, my worry is just somebody coming in once we agreed to a couple of these and was saying, I'm sorry, we have no more benches, those are out.
Then I'll let them put, they can
So-and-so.
put them on trees. We have lots of
No,
spaces
we
for
won't
it.
let them put 'em on trees.
Some rocks. I
Bike
mean,
racks.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
spaces. We'll figure it out.
I mean, but I think the other side of that is what's the criteria to get your name on a bench,
Right.
you know?
I mean, it's just something we're gonna have to need to think
50
about.
years as the police chief, or 50 years as the fire chief, or the town road foreman and town
Although-
employee. What is the criteria? What's
I
your
mean,
name?
I
We
think
put her name
the-
on a truck?
well,
Have you
the
been a
one
town
that you
employee
came
for
up with
35
before-
years?
The
They
one that
already
you
got the
came
names
up
on
with
truck.
before,
You know what I mean.
you know, like if there's lots of requests that we then develop a policy. I think that that makes sense to me.
Well, then you'd let the horse out of the barn.
Right.
Or your food truck
So,
policy.
but what you'd have to say right now is no to all requests and then write a policy, and
Yeah.
we'd have to talk about it at some meeting. I don't know when this would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which we absolutely could do, but we would have to add it into the agenda.
So, your thoughts, people?
Oh, yeah, we have
We
the
have a
first and
motion,
second.
we have a motion and a second. Any more
You can
discussion
also
on
take
any?
items off of the consent agenda if you want to vote on them separate.
What's your thoughts? Does anybody want to take anything off or just?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay.
okay. I'd entertain,
Well, actually, I have one more question.
Yeah.
yeah, I know I'd entertain.
We knew if you waited long enough.
Yeah, you gotta-
To sneak it in there. The Pat Travers, he's extending. Development of this project is now anticipated to take longer time than originally estimated. What's his time been like so far?
What's his, well, because it's such an early stage, there hasn't been a lot for him to do. He's probably about 15% of the way through his contract.
Okay.
Well, that's for number one.
And there's no change to the amount. It's just.
Correct.
No, it's just the date.
Okay.
Just the-
All
just the
right.
date.
That's fine.
Okay, okay, we have a motion and a second. Hearing no more discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, items consent agenda 1 through 4, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Say nay.
Okay.
You know?
Consider
Did you
appointment,
say yay or nay or abstain?
abstained.
You abstained?
Consider appointment of candidate to fill the library trustee,
So it was a 3-2.
3-1-1.
Say 1-1.
Well, okay.
Nay, and
Why
Consider
would
appointment,
you, I just need to ask you, why would you abstain?
because we don't have a policy, and now we don't have a policy on that, but we're gonna have names on many things, and I think we should develop it first and then have it come back later at a later date.
But then you should, I would have just expected you to say nay.
Yeah.
Okay, then
Not
it's
abstain, not
nay.
abstain.
Nay.
I mean, abstain to me
No,
would be, I have a conflict.
Personal
Right.
conflict, yeah.
The second one, this next one I do.
Okay,
Consider appointment of candidate to fill the library trustee vacancy, Danielle, I'm gonna say
Sutherland.
Sutherland, okay. Right, Danielle lives, I believe, on Months Avenue. You'll see her place, as some of us know,
Yep, also the night place
and who,
and the Bingham place, so.
yeah, no, I remember the Sears, I lived there for hundreds of years. So, what do you want to consider being on the library board?
Well, hi, I'm Daniela. You interviewed me to be on the school board earlier this past year.
That's
so-
right, that's where I remember you, from
Yes.
Maddie, we waited for an hour, then come out executive session, they said it was gonna be 5 minutes, Joel, come on over,
Yes,
you and another girl.
yes.
Did
So
the interview.
I joined the school board just after moving in town. And then I was on the school board through our multiple rounds of soliciting community input and the budget, and made it all the way through until the fall, until I finally said, I have a 5-year-old and I'm a solo parent and we're meeting until midnight. And I can't get a babysitter to stay that late. So what I'm trying to say is, I didn't like join on board and then be like, well, I guess I just don't want to support the town. But what I did find is that I really loved being part of the community, even when people were very upset about the school budget. And I really liked the ability to serve my community. So when I saw that the library board was starting to have vacancies, I talked to folks at the library and I talked to some other community members just to say, like, what does this involve? Is this going to be something that I can commit to? And Joel's wife wanted me to say that she is available to watch my daughter every night, if there's a library meeting.
That's why I'm abstaining.
She also said he's going to abstain, but that's actually, Star is watching my daughter right now, which is why I'm here. And the other things, just to say, I'm a professor at UVM. My work is actually to try to support small towns' leadership around education and boards. So it's something that I like doing it. And I worked in a library when I was,
I did see
fresh out
that.
of school. So I worked in a Cliff Island, Maine. It has 75 people who live there year round. Only about 50 of them come out of their houses in the winter, and I ran the library for the winter. And so I was like, I think I'd really like to do this job. And so that's why I'm here. Oh, and I have my ballot information ready to submit this week, all my signatures, because I understand this is an appointment until town meeting day, but I'm gonna put my name on the ballot. All the signatures are done. Also, thanks to Star.
And I understand you haven't met with the trustees?
No, I've
Yeah.
met with the people at the library.
Yeah, but not the actual trustees.
To be perfectly honest, the trustees have turned over quite a bit recently, so it's been hard to keep track of who's on the board, and I understand I'm part of that. And I also know that the board meeting is tomorrow for the library, and that they're gonna be talking about money and a large, I think, some sort of like,
If it's personal, please don't say names or anything that's personal
oh, I'm not gonna say any names. I just know that there's some
for the public, for the public.
there's some major projects coming down the road that they need time and attention for, and I'm like, if there's budget problems, I have been through that already. I would love to be helpful. So I'll be meeting with the board tomorrow if I'm appointed, and if not, then I'll wait until election time, and thank you for your time.
Okay. Okay. What's your pleasure, people?
I mean, normally we do this when we get a recommendation from the trustees, but this is only an appointed position until March, so. Then, if we don't appoint her, she could get elected anyway.
Right, which is what I did.
Yeah.
It's 2 months.
Yeah, it's 2
2
months.
months.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to be appointed by the trustees.
No, you're
No,
not
no, no,
appointed.
no,
You're
no,
not.
you're
They
appointed by
usually
the-
interview first
usually
and then
do.
give a recommendation.
They
It's not
sometimes
required.
do.
Yeah, that's just been the usual
Yeah, and
process.
if you run, they don't get
They don't get to
Exactly.
interview you
So
anyway.
it's
Like,
not.
I just showed up after I won the election, so.
I had a very nice conversation with the new children's librarian. I know that doesn't count as being appointed, but
Okay.
I'll make the motion, we appoint Daniela
No second.
until March.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any more discussions? Any more questions for Danielle? Yeah. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And
Abstain?
you're abstaining.
Abstain.
Ian, I didn't hear you.
He
Abstain.
said,
Okay, you're staying too? Okay. Okay, so I would, yeah, encourage you to get to the board meeting tomorrow night.
okay. Is
Say
it okay?
surprise.
Is it okay if I go home now to?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Your wife was right there when getting dinner left. If
Not unless
possible.
you want to stay for the rest of the meeting.
These are riveting.
Very riveting, yeah.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for your
It
Thank
was
you.
a pleasure.
Good luck.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, you get a chance to get the lead. Okay.
Somebody trying to get in this meeting.
Oh.
Oh, thank you.
Who is it? Who is it?
Somebody from
Like
Lincoln,
Patricia.
Patricia from Lincoln. Sure,
Oh,
let's
okay.
talk about.
Number 2, consider renewal of Twin Maple Sugar Works 5-year lease at Seth Hill Waterworks. Discuss access concerns from recent erosion and management installations.
I'll make the motion to renew the lease,
Second.
and then we can talk about the issues.
And I haven't seen the lease, but the lease would be the same tap fees as even the federal lease.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Peter.
And I did notice, I believe there's a typo. If folks want, I can try to share my screen. Let's see here.
If you have any questions,
Is it a
the
serious typo?
Twin Maple
Kinda. Let's see.
Sugar Works owner is in the audience. If you guys have Don Gale. you know, Don, and he's been tapping that for a number of years. How many now? 25 probably?
I'm sorry?
How many years you been tapping that? 30? 35?
Well, I've been up in there for at least 30. And I think we started in the waterworks a few years after I started with the Forest Service. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
looked at the lease, I didn't,
Didn't see anything, Michelle, that
no, I
jumped
mean,
out at you?
whatever changes Val made, I thought were fine.
Yeah, so I just made some minor edits, a little bit of formatting, put it on letterhead. And I think the error, I think, December 2029 is only 4 years. And it should be December 2030.
okay, that's a big,
Yeah, minor detail.
Leap year in there,
Okay.
maybe.
I mean,
Okay.
with regard to the erosion stuff, you know, I read that, I went through some of the emails and that. I don't know that I knew that we knew they were dropping trees.
Oh, David is here too. I know David
that's-
got a grant, we got some kind of a
Right.
grant or something to do some erosion control. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Early midsummer, I think it was. maybe.
Yeah, they did the work, I mean, we
Right.
approved the work,
Right.
but, I mean, can't we just let those guys work it out?
I guess,
Well, Mike Winslow is also here, who administered the funding program that supported that project. And I guess the question is, yes, we could let them work it out. It's town property and there might be some budget implications, but also we need to be aware that whatever is worked out, not compromise the work that was
Right.
funded through the grant program.
Right,
And I have no clue what those options might be to address each of those concerns.
well, when we went, I mean, I don't remember what the grant specifics were, because I remember going through the paperwork. But I thought they were only putting water bars in, I didn't realize that there were gonna be trees that were being felled. And that was part of the water bars. Does anybody else remember?
I don't remember
I don't remember Michelle being.
any cutting.
I thought we were putting water bars in the road that stopped the road.
Upgrading the road, well, anytime you do road work, you do lose trees, there's no question about that, I just don't, I guess I didn't read, so I don't know what the extent of the tree loss is and what the issue
Well, they were
is.
felled in the road and left,
Ah,
so David can't get up there. I mean-
well,
Don, sorry.
yeah, since the work was done, I think I probably removed somewhere around 12 trees that were dropped on the road.
Mhm.
And my understanding was that was to prevent mountain bikers and horse riders from going up there.
Mhm.
And over the years, like I said, I've been up there for 30 years. I've seen evidence of horse tracks and horse manure, but I've never seen anybody on a horse. And I have never seen a bike up there. I have seen lots of hikers and lots of cross-country skiers. And right now, the local cross-country skiing group of people in that area are slightly upset because they can't ski through there. It's just non-negotiable, the roadways. And I have some pictures and I have some information. I was up there today and I took some prints. And I noted there's 10 water bars before the bridge. 2 of those water bars have no stone catment on them. Out of between the gate, 2 of the water bars are actually at the Forest Service boundary or above it. And from the gate to the top where the water bars stop, I counted 34. Out of the 34 water bars, 8 of them had some water in them. 2 of them had running water in them. The rest of them were all dry. And the pictures I took today, I mean, it's to the point right now that I can't access. It's dangerous. This is You can pass that around if you'd like. That's the water bar up near the Forest Service boundary.
So who felled the trees?
I did.
Okay.
And
And
I know there's some other trees up there are marked for cutting. I don't know if there's an intent to cut those down or not. But in the meantime, I went out to the management practices page. And I noted that the truck roads, permanent truck roads and temporary truck loads, up to a 20-degree slope, the relief culverts can be 130 to 120 feet apart. Temporary roads are like 45 to 60. And the drainage area is, for the majority of the water bars, the drainage area is pretty small.
So, let me ask, you said 34 water bars, but how far apart are they? Does that cover a whole mile of road? Does that cover?
Well, they're about-
mile? Are they 20 feet apart?
This is the one that I'm most concerned about. When I go over that water bar, anything that I have in the basket comes flying out.
Okay. Even like the ones my brother put in at their camp going to.
And so
We had to put somebody.
my brother was a civil engineer with the Forest Service. And I was talking to him about them. And he said that the Forest Service calls these type of drainage ditches or water bars tank traps. And they're meant for roads that aren't gonna be used. And because you can't travel through them, and there's hikers that aren't using that Forest Service road anymore because they're
This is the one that goes from the dining field, goes over our land first, and then goes through the natural forest above us.
yes, that's correct,
Past our old intake,
that's correct.
past our old water
Yeah.
intake.
Well, the Waterworks Road splits off to the right.
Right.
Above the bridge, and it's from above the bridge up is where the real issue is, because not only do you have the increase, you have the steep grade to begin with. And then you have to go up a steeper grade to go over the pitch of the water bar, and then there's the drop into the water bar. And after talking to my brother about it, he mentioned that drainage dips and grades over 4 to 5% should not be used. And what they highly recommend is a structure where you take 2 pressure treated timbers and you place them across the road. So any water running down the road drops in between the timbers and drains off. Now, the only place where that wouldn't work is there's 2 areas, one right at the Forest Service boundary and one just below the Forest Service boundary. And then to some degree, when you first start up the hill above the bridge, there are 3 springs there between the one above the bridge and further up. And they pretty much have water in them almost year round. And
Okay.
and I don't know how you'd address those, but as far as water running down the road, I mean, you can actually see it in one of the water bars. It's already starting to cut a trench in the bottom of the water bar where the water is constantly running. And there is a deposit of sand and gravel and whatnot at the outlet of the water bar.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Peter a couple of questions. I won't put you on the spot, Peter, but I mean, just things like that should have more, instead of a water bar, more of a culvert in it. So the soil doesn't go away. It
No,
just
the
goes
whole
water.
idea behind the water bar is to stop the water from coming down the road. It's not like a town road where you put the water in the ditches and then you cross it.
Okay.
Water bars are designed because you don't have ditches. Water bars are designed so the water comes down the road and the water gets hit here and it gets kicked off the road instead of
Daylighted out into the
continuing
bushes, out
down
into the
and
woods.
making ruts. And I guess the question I had for Dave, I've done a lot of water bars for you, and we always did broad-based dips. Did your excavator get carried away?
There, we built 3 different structures. One was a regular old broad-based dip, which is which works perfectly up to 7% grade. And dips, according to the AMPs, you can go up to 10% grade, but it gets tough. So places that were over 7% grade to even up to 11, 12% grade, we lined with stone. So just to reduce the severity of the dip. And that's on the truck road, the road that goes from the gate to the old spring. And that's a good road. It's a good road other than the fact that it's 100% in the riparian zone.
In the
And
what
any
zone?
sediment that,
Riparian.
right, it's right next to the stream. And it was built in probably 1905, and that's the way it's been, and that's the way it is. And it's a good road. I mean, it's a good road, except that's right next to the stream. And so the main issue with the road is the Forest Service road that goes up. It's very steep. It goes from 16, 17% grade up to 25% grade. And I spoke with the Forest Service folks and I said, this is what we're planning to do. And they said, great, because we're not planning to do anything. And it's coded as a, they don't have plans to maintain that road, their road. And so here's the situation. And so the grant came up, that's a clean water service provider to the Addison County Regional Planning Commission, which is designed to slow spread and sink peak storm flow. We are in a situation where we're getting atmospheric rivers hitting these roads. And we're getting these gully washing storm events, you know, like the one where people were kayaking in the streets of Bristol. I mean, we're getting them all the time. And so in order for this to work, you have to put in practices that really work and comply fully with the acceptable management practices. When we started, and Forest and Parks came in and did the first review and came back, our original plan was to put little dips and things around the whole place. And they said, don't worry about the skid roads, focus on the truck roads. They're a major source of sedimentation, erosion, phosphorus discharge into Lake Champlain even. And they're also a response to, when we get these storms, they come in and they not only erode the roads, but they also scour the stream banks. So they said, put all your efforts there and follow the AMPs. When we started, based on the AMPs that are applicable, there were 2. We put in 35. There's not one more than what the AMPs call for. And the reason they call for so many of them is that the land is steep. And so really the road that the Forest Service has that goes up through there is not, they don't call it a permanent truck road. It's a road that they built to a landing. They put in ditches, they put in culverts, they put in a crown, they logged, they did a little post-harvest barring, and that's it. And so it really isn't a road that's permanent and that should be used. There should be an alternative. I've talked at length with Don about this before we did a lot of this work. And I think there's an opportunity for going up what I call the spring road and look for an opportunity to cut across the slope and build a road at 7 to 10%. Excuse me, but I haven't really looked at it. I'm just saying there's opportunities to do that. And so the reality is that to consider this road that's going straight up the hill at 17 to 20% grade as a permanent road, it isn't. To turn it into one, it's going to cost gazillions, which nobody wants to pay for. And so we put it in, we complied fully with the acceptable management practices, which is what the contract was. The additional thing in the contract, and I applaud them for doing this, they said it has to last 10 years. A lot of people put in water bars, they don't even last 2 weeks. So we put them in deep, we packed them in. Chris Cram did the work, he's an incredible operator, he did just what I asked him to do. He said, you know, if we were doing this when we were building the road, it'd be easier because we would go from dip to dip. We had a certain fixed amount of line that we could work with. But the real issue is that steep Forest Service road. And I think either I mean, it's a road that ought to be closed, period, end of story.
Well, that's not on our land though, right?
Well, that's not, but, but the thing that is on your land is that it is really, is very, very steep. And, so it isn't just, so that's the situation. When we were building it, we weren't in there a half an hour and there was a mountain bike up there. And this is on fresh stuff that we're just doing, we're just seeding and stuff. So I felled a few trees. They're not like big trees, they're just trees like brushy things. And they could be moved out of the woods there in no time flat. It wasn't a matter to like obliterate the road, but it was just simply to say, let's let the seeding happen and let's not mountain biking when we're still operating on the road. And so I think that there's what I would submit, and as is in the past contracts have been, that the operator be responsible for maintaining the road. The road currently, your truck roads currently, for the first time since 1905, comply fully with the AMPs. They do, except for two places, big culvert down toward the end and the wooden bridge that allows certain stuff to flow through it. But basically, it's in great shape as far as erosion control is concerned. Now, I've talked with Don about it. You could put poles in the bottom of the broad base dips. You could lower the broad base dips if you wanted to, but somebody has to take responsibility for maintaining them. And that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where I would say, if you want to manipulate them, drop them down, don't make them so tough, go for it. But I put that I put that in the contract with that to be maintained in full compliance. And the last thing I'm going to say, it isn't about what's happening in a particular situation, like any day. These kind of storm events, which we used to say, well, they're 20-year storm events, is where 90% of the erosion happens. You've seen them. They come and go, holy smokes, this is unbelievable. That's what these things are meant to prevent. This is what we need to do all across Vermont. And so we figured out how to control it as best we know. This is based on data. This is based on research that was conducted in the 1930s at the Coolidge Experiment Forest. It's some of the best research the Forest Service has ever done. This stuff works. And so in terms of moving forward, I think shouldering is fantastic as far as a land use that's light. It's the best use of the set hill. It's not a great place to log because it's steep, but there's some maple trees, and then the Forest Service has beautiful maple trees. And timber stumpage might give you 20 to 35 bucks an acre per year. Maple trees, 60 to 100 taps might generate 60 to 100 to $200 per acre per year. It's a really good thing, and it's light on the land. And Don's doing a great job with the sugaring, but that road is unsustainable, and so that's the way it is.
Am I hearing that the 10, 12, 15 trees that are falling over, now maybe that seeding that you did sometime last summer, those trees have to be moved for sugaring?
Oh, they're already.
You've
I've
already moved
cut
them.
up. And actually, Dave and I met up there, and what he told me to do was to take cut up chunks of wood and put them in the drainage part of the water bar.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did. It's incredibly rough to go across, but, and the ones up above, the majority of them don't have anything in them. And
That
I was
steepest
just
one-
gonna ask if poles would solve the problem.
I was gonna ask, could you
Well,
put
it's-
planks just from one side to the other so he can drive over it without going down into the
I
dip?
mean, if it was tapered more, it would, I mean, the way it is right now, it's dangerous going through it. I mean, I sent a note to the clerk about the fact that one hunter has already fallen in it. And,
Falling on what?
fell in one of the water bars. And the local people that hike and cross-country ski up there are quite upset with the fact that they're not gonna hike up there anymore. And they can't cross-country ski through those water bars because they're too abrupt. I mean, if they're filled in with snow, that's one thing, but I don't think, from what I've seen, that's not gonna happen. unless we get a significant amount of snow.
Well, if you're skiing, you're gonna be having snow. And I'm gonna say that the road up from from the gate up to the spring, I can ski. And I'm not much of a skier.
The point they
Up-
mentioned
but the
about
point-
that,
The road for the Forest Service, just get into your mind that that Forest Service road was essentially a temporary road for a timber sale. And now it's a liability that doesn't comply with anybody's specs. And it needs to either be closed and a new route for recreation, and hopefully there will be new routes for recreation. What Don needs for an access, he doesn't need that big wide road anyway, he just needs a road that's built, a path that's 6 or 8 feet wide, and he can scoot up
it
there.
was very convenient though, when I was able to take my pickup up there.
That's great, but it was inconvenient for the
And
fish and the
over the
stream,
last,
and very inconvenient for for the communities that live downstream that are suffering from this.
I do-
the last 30 years that I've been up there, that road has only washed out below the bridge once and above the bridge once. And it was only because the ditch got plugged up above where the Forest Service is. It got plugged up with debris. And that was plugged up because there were saplings growing in the ditch. And the Forest Service finally told us that anything less than 3 inches in diameter, we could remove. So we've been in the process of doing that to keep the ditches clean and clear of debris. And each year I clean out 4 or 5 culverts in the springtime after everything washes down. But only once has the water jumped the ditch and run down the Forest Service road. And then it exited the road by what used to be the old gravel pit up there. And then Irene was the only other time that water jumped the corner there by the bridge and ran down the Waterworks Road. And that's 30 years. I mean,
So I guess trying to bring this to full circle here. So if the board or don't authorize something to have the road fixed, then you don't want to do the lease, or you still want to do the lease? I mean, I don't think, I'm not gonna speak for the board, but I don't think we're gonna put any money into, more money unless it's a grant to put a road up for something that we're barely getting money enough to cover the cost of taxes.
well, that's what I kind of figured. And from the track that I took, I went out through the only flat that's up there above the steep hill above the bridge and walked all the way up to above the dam. And there is no place, unless you made a number of switchbacks, there's no way you're gonna get up that ridge.
So David, can I ask you something? For him just to get over the worst of them, can he just put planks down to drive over it with his 4-wheeler or whatever to make it so it's not so rough?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways of taming the dips.
Mhm.
And, you know, they could be, as Peter said, you know, you can pole them.
Mhm.
You could, poles is a good way to do it, actually.
I
So
mean,
it would
it's
be like-
basically what Don was saying, the only difference is they're not pressure treated and they're not separated for the
Mhm.
water's gonna go
Right.
between the poles.
Right,
That's
go
what
around.
happens.
But if the planks are over the top of them, the water's just gonna go underneath anyway. That's not,
But we're
That's what I was
talking 32 or 34 bridges.
well,
What,
I was just thinking, you said there was just a couple
24
that were the worst.
Yeah.
24 bridges above the bridge. For every water bar, there's,
You don't need poles. You don't need poles to get up to the spring. You need poles to get up the 17 to 25% grade road that brings you to the Forest Service. End of story. If you're gonna use that road. But that road is not, that road is a ditch.
So did you essentially close the road out?
I would. Did I?
No,
No.
that's what I'm asking, because
Did I? I put in, I would put in tank traps. Yeah, we didn't have money to put in culverts. I mean, if you wanna have it be if you wanna use it as a permanent road, and I know you can engineer it, but it's gonna take big culverts and a lot of material. And it's gonna mean reestablishing ditches. And, it's gonna mean putting a case hardiness on that road service. The Forest Service isn't gonna do it.
The Forest Service, are they the ones that created that road in the first place, right? We didn't do that. The town didn't do that, right?
Well, we had a road to the
Springbok.
Springboks.
But is it,
I've
I
been
don't,
there
I'm not familiar with this
20
area,
years,
so.
15, 20 years. I've been out there.
So is that,
I've
is that
never
road
been
above,
I've never been above the Springbok.
Me
is that
neither.
above the Springboks, that road, the
No,
Forest Service?
before to the left,
Or the
yeah.
Springboks, okay.
Well, the only, the thing that's, I mean, it's inaccessible even to me at this point.
How does it affect your operation?
I can't get materials up there.
How much, area-wise, how much of your operation is in that area?
It's
But you
over
can't-
100 acres.
So we're talking considerable amount of taps.
Yeah,
And lines.
50, yeah, I was actually planning 5,600 this year.
In the area that you can't get to now.
So, the sugar bush, without Don, the sugar bush, and if he can't get to it, then what's the value of the sugar bush?
I'm not the only one using that.
Okay, all I'm saying is that if the Forest Service is gonna lease it, you would think they'd have some responsibility in paying some of the costs associated for the person to whom they are leasing it to get there in a way that's sustainable. To just say, hey, we're happy to take your dough, but you figure out how to get up here. And the only access that he has right now that's there is unsustainable. They know it, they're not maintaining it. So it requires some action. So maybe just to defer some of the stumpage or payment.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are there two leases? So do you also lease land from the Forest Service?
Yeah,
Okay, so
so
there's
I
two,
lease about 100 acres from the Forest Service.
and so the primary area that we're talking about is actually on Forest Service land?
No, I think if I'm understanding it right, it's access through our
Our
land
land to get to the Forest Service land.
Is that
That was
correct?
my understanding.
It's access to the Forest Service land through Bristol.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you can get to the 113 acres you access of ours, you can get to most of ours. Still to this day or no?
yeah. I mean, I can still, over the years, I've maintained the skid trails that are up in there. And, just keeping them clear and keeping the water bars up in
But
there.
our water bars are in our 113 acres that are causing, so you can't get any higher up.
Oh, I can't, the only part that's actually sugarable is just above the dam. Cause once you get above the dam, it all goes to yellow birch and everything else. So there's nothing up in there that's tappable. Beech, birch, spruce.
In terms of numbers of taps, how many taps are on the Forest Service and how many taps are on the?
I think there's 800 and something on Bristol. The rest of them are all on Forest
And how
Service.
much is that?
So it'll be what, 4,800.
So maybe you're, not to be rude about it, but your dog in the fight is with the Forest Service and not with us. I don't mean that disrespectful at all, but because, you can get over our
I can't,
stuff.
I can't get over your stuff.
You can get to our land, right, to our
Well, they-
800 taps, but you can't get to the 4,500
There are
without them doing
4
something.
main lines
For Trump
above the bridge that at this point, I can't get to.
that are still in Bristol's,
Yes,
on Bristol's land,
yes.
that are.
Well,
water
everything
bars.
comes down across our land.
Right, yeah, but they're water bars, because you didn't do any water bars, obviously, on the Forest Service side, you only did them on ours.
The grant was for
For
our
ours,
properties.
yes. So I don't know if we're gonna crack this nut tonight, people, I honestly don't, it's been going a while,
So with our road, did we,
improve it, I guess.
well, no, did we fix a problem that we didn't have? If Don's saying in over 30 years, he's never seen that road wash out, but then we're doing a huge amount of work to change the entire makeup of the road to prevent washout, but it's never happened. Why are we doing that then?
Well, we already did it, right?
No, I know,
So-
no, I know, but why, that's what I'm asking. If,
Well, we're doing it because the climate is changing and we're doing it to that things that we used to get away with. We're not getting away with it anymore. We're doing it because
well, how much damage
Well,
was done to that road over the
well,
last however many
you
years.
can't wait, these storm events are spotty. They don't happen everywhere. I mean, the time that Bristol got washed out, adjacent places didn't even know it was raining. It was a cloud that was hanging over Bristol for like 4 days or something like that, but they're spotty. And so to say it's all about major storm events now, and the major storm events are catastrophic, and they cause an enormous amount of soil erosion, sedimentation, and phosphorus. So this is like a preventative thing to get our roads. So it's worth the money. And I think it's an effective practice, and to think that we're gonna just.
But it's no longer a road anymore. So what is it? It's just preventative in terms of erosion in the chance of a large
Oh, I
storm.
mean, the steep hill is no longer a road?
The road that has the 30
I'm trying to
plus
Okay,
berms
so.
on
look
See, the one-
here.
The yellow one is really never should have been a road. The road that is the gray that goes up and passes.
Fairly wide there at the bottom.
And wide at the bottom and goes over.
So that's our Seth Hill,
Goes
which
over
is
the
dark,
spring.
right?
That's a great road. That's a great walking path. That's a great path for recreation. It's a great base. It's a beautiful recreational path that is going to be very stable and require little or no maintenance for at least 10, and I hope 20 years. The yellow one is always going to be a bleeding wound.
And that yellow one right now, there is water in one or two of those water bars. The rest of them are all dry after all the rain and snow melt that we've had.
But if they're working correctly, they will be dry when the ground dries out. The only time there'll be water in them is when it's raining,
When it's passing through.
when the water's running. I mean,
Well, that, where that goes up steep, there is a spring at the top of that. And that's the only one that has water in it, is where that spring is. Rest of them are all dry.
So Valerie, so that, I'll call it 3 little squares there, connected. That's all of our land, correct? Is that what you
That
brought
whole-
down?
Yeah, that's all the colored stuff there.
All the colored stuff?
Yeah.
And so the yellow that goes off into the gray to the top of the screen, is that
That
national
goes to the
forest?
national forest.
And then we can't see the top of the screen, way up. Yeah. Is that all natural forest way over here in the right-hand corner?
Yeah, that's all that.
It's all national forest around
All the way
us.
around, it's all 4 sides.
Mhm.
Yeah.
but all we're talking about is that yellow road.
But all those other blue dots that go up there make
The
a,
blue is
The
the
Lewis
river.
River, Brook,
or
or whatever.
okay, that look like some purple at the top.
Those are all old roads.
Those are all old roads. Okay, and then the white roads are old roads now?
They're old roads too.
Mhm.
It's a really eroded place, and when you get a gully washing storm event, it's like a ditch watershed, and it comes out of there. But fortunately, they've regenerated, and there's a lot of trees growing, and there's trees that have fallen over them and stuff, and they sort of healed. The other one, like the yellow one, there's not been any healing, the truck roads, they just haven't revegetated because they're used, and so, and when I first met Peter, which is back before, just after Columbus left, we did a
Let's see where
road,
you get on the board.
we did a road up in Lincoln following these specs, and he built it, and it was beautiful. And it was through steep country, but he put in these carousas up through. We got a gully washing rainstorm the next day or 2 days later, and I remember his truck, I saw his truck going up, and I came hightailing past him, and he said, that road couldn't be there. It was perfect.
So, well,
I mean, the whole key to water bars is, the reason they're so deep is because you get wheel tracks. And once you get wheel tracks, the wheel tracks come down through, and the bar's gotta be deep enough so that the water doesn't jump the bar. Because the water's gonna stay in the wheel tracks because the road's not crowned and you don't have ditches on Woods Road. And I know exactly what Don's talking about tank traps, because I put in a number of those too. And like I said, the steeper it gets, the harder it is to make something that.
And that's why,
that you
when
can
I
get-
discussed it with my brother, he said, that's not the design you guys should be using. He said you should be using the pressure treated timbers water comes down the road, drops in between the timbers and runs off. And in the springtime, you go through with a Pulaski, run the Pulaski down through and clean them out, and they're good to go.
I've actually seen that,
Yeah.
several state park
Okay.
roads.
Well, I'm not sure, guys, we're gonna cure this tonight. I don't wanna drag it on for another half the curls an hour.
I mean, I
We
know
could,
there's
but-
the option to putting in what you said, it might not get your truck up there, but at least it'll be easier to get your
You
four-wheeler
know,
up
I know
there.
what you're going through, because last year we couldn't go from our deer camp, we have an access to Lewis Creek, yeah, and cross the Lewis Creek, and then the 1,800 acres of management area. We park on the side on our land, and we were gonna roll our four-wheelers, it was so steep. So Pete took his excavator this year, and the neighbor, we have a right of way over it, but the neighbor owns, he says, yeah, he goes, well, I can't even walk down the river, and sit down there with my chair anymore. You guys wanna go ahead and clean it up? And we did, we put some water bars in and fixed it up so we can get down through there with four-wheeler. But we're going down the water bar, coming right back up like this.
So
But the
what,
water's going through them.
so Joel, if you're saying we can't figure this out tonight, what's the course of action?
Mhm. And meanwhile, you need to begin your operations.
I'm sorry,
You're planning to begin your operations.
I already have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's, yeah,
I mean,
I don't
I'm going
know,
up there
I really
now.
don't know the
and-
course of action. He can
Right.
sign the lease or not, and can't use it. He can move the trees, this, he said, Don has
He's
said
already moved this-
he's
he's already
removing
moved
the
it.
trees.
He's already moved them.
I think possibly in the summer months that we try to, I won't say a field trip. The last time I was up there was with Peter Ryan and Don. We went up there when we went over the last lease. I think that was 15 years ago,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah,
10 or 15 years ago, at least 10 years ago. And so,
and the roll bars at the beginning, I mean,
I think we'll invite David, excuse me, I think we'll
I mean,
invite
it's-
David to
it's
that
like going
meeting in
over a
the
little-
summer.
a little roller coaster to get up in there. The only one that really concerns me is the one just below the bridge. Because the water, that's where during Irene, that's where the water jumped. The bank was just above the bridge on that curve.
So,
And if that water jumps that curve with no stone or anything in that first water bar, it's gonna chew the dickens out of the road.
well, to then David's credit, is that why the water bar is steep? Because an Irene gonna wash it
Not
out.
there,
If
no,
it's
that's
not
just
that
a
deep.
gentle, that water bar, you ride up one side and down the other, it's like a little roller coaster. And it's nice to go over. But that water bar with no fill in it is gonna, you're gonna lose the road if the water jumps the bridge.
Like I
Cause
said,
there's nothing there to hold the soil that's in the water bar.
all the trees you cut out, maybe you, I don't know, figure you know a lot more about this than I do, as David
But
said.
I think
you could
that needs
put the
some
trees in
stone in
there.
it, at least if the town had some stone to put in that water bar, cause like I said, if the water jumps that curve in a bad storm, it's gonna take the road.
If what?
If they lay trees in there, so it doesn't, water.
You can lay poles in there and soften them, it's a lot of work, but it also works. It'll soften the water bar and it'll make it so you can get through it.
Yeah.
And I think the key is, what David said was that, whatever's done has to be maintained. If we
can't change it.
if we just go and throw logs in there and it's not maintained, then we're gonna lose.
Right.
Lose the road.
Can't get the logs high enough so water bars don't be effective.
And one of the things you had brought to our attention were piles of stone that appeared to be up there.
Yeah.
Was there a purpose for the piles of stone?
Oh, these that you're looking at? These
Yeah.
pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are in places where these are broad-based dips that are fairly,
And that's what I was saying, it's like going over a roller coaster.
it's steeper area, like over 7% and below 12%. And they just help to
I
reinforce them.
see. So there's
the face
several
of
of them.
And they're packed, so they're not really just a pile.
Okay.
They're packed.
Okay.
And the only complaint I heard about those is there has to be a significant amount of snow on top of them. Otherwise, it's gonna destroy the skis.
Well, I'm sorry for their
Yeah, I
skiers,
am
but
too.
I mean, if we don't do
Well, the
something,
whole
they'll lose the
thing-
road anyway, and then
I
they won't be
know-
able to ski.
I know it's laughable, but you know, the whole idea behind this is recreation
No,
for hiking, you know, skiing. And I actually heard from one person said, you know, we used to sled up there. We can't sleigh ride up there anymore.
Well, I want to be sympathetic to them, but, you know, that's the same group, or not same group, but there was groups that said they don't want us to close Berg's Hill, and we got, that's a road with the traffic every day. houses.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we have to prioritize where we're gonna put our money in. what
Yeah,
pot.
yeah.
And, you know, so, I hope it works out for you. We've spent a long time on this discussing it, and I think, you know, maybe there will be sections you won't be able to get to without just putting the snowshoes on and hoofing it instead of the four-wheeler, and I apologize for that, but that's about all I can say, and we have to come to a
I
conclusion
don't think we're not
gonna-
opposed
to
to
him.
him putting poles in the,
No,
no,
to
no,
soften them.
not no, we're not opposed to making it handier, but also we don't want him to flatten out the water bars that we spent good grant money to have put in. Yeah, that's where I'm going with
It's gonna
that.
take a lot of holes to
Yeah.
fill those in.
Yeah.
And
And then,
doesn't that, I'm sorry, but I would think that kind of defeats the purpose of the water bar, doesn't it?
Well, the water will go in between the poles.
But what about all the material coming down on the? Because a few of these are diversions from drainage ditches.
I mean, we're trying to.
There's- I mean, this one,
memory here.
this one here, there is an incredible amount of water that comes down this ditch. And this water bar was put in and it diverts it from a culvert that is just below it. And when the water hits this 90-degree turn, it's gonna chew through this water bar.
we may just have to, when we do our road trip next year, take a little ride up there to see, because, we're not gonna be able to do it right now, we're not
No.
gonna see what we wanna see, so
No.
this might be one of those
And I'm
things.
trying to
on
do it
the
from
road trip
memory,
calendar
it's not
For next
good.
year.
So
Been
I,
15 years
I
since I've
have,
been
I
up.
have never been up there, so.
it's probably been 30 years since I've been up there, so
I was on the board, Peter Ryan and I and Don met the son-in-law.
It's a beautiful piece of land and it's worth going. It's.
Yeah.
Bristol.
I don't even know how to get
I'll
there right
wrap it all
now.
up here, guys. I'll wrap it all up. I know we're not getting the answers we'd like to have for you.
I wonder if the Conservation Commission might have a role in some of this. I've tried to keep them informed that this
That's a
has, that
possibility.
this is a topic. And they're certainly interested in stewardship of municipal lands and natural resources. So I wonder if they have some either manpower that they would be willing to put into something, or some other thinking toward
Maybe
a
at least
solution.
ideas, and maybe they can get some grant funding for something else, or I don't know. But we've got
Last meeting, they
to.
did discuss that section. So maybe somebody will get in touch with them.
But is,
They did discuss the section.
do you have a motion to accept that?
yeah, I haven't got a motion yet to accept this.
Yes, you did.
I did it
Okay,
before you even
but
started the discussion.
is this the town of Bristol or the town of Bristol Water District? It's Water District land and not.
No, it's town of Bristol land.
Land belongs
Now
to
it's the town of Bristol.
I thought it was the water,
Town of
district,
Bristol
No.
pays the taxes.
Town of Bristol pays taxes on it.
but it comes out of the water budget.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Does,
No?
sure does,
It
Thank
does,
you,
and we
thank
put
you.
the money we get from him
in
in
the
the
water
water
budget.
budget.
This is water district money. This was
The
owned
le- I
by the
thought
village.
I thought
under the water
the deed
district
was to
before we
the town of
merged.
Bristol.
I thought so too.
No, this was owned by the water district before we merged the town. and
You,
village.
you better look at the deed, because I thought the deed was to the town of Bristol.
I don't know, I've seen the deed.
So, but
All
I
I've seen
know
are the
that,
lease documents.
I know it comes out of the water district budget.
No, we
But I
should check
trust
that.
the deed more than how we.
I would
budget.
just, I would double
All the
check.
other problems.
Does it, for the lease agreement, since I just recycled the 10-year-old document and added a little header on it, does it matter?
Money goes in the right place. It doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't
I
really
think it
matter,
matters.
just to bring it to point of order. It's
I
just
don't
the
know,
way-
all I do, I'd make out a check, I bring it down, and I give it to the clerk, and then she.
Right, you don't care from there, right? Right.
As long as it's marked.
Okay, I got a
paid.
motion and a second to accept this lease agreement
Changing the 29th
to the 30th. Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, and there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? We've heard enough. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We didn't discuss the lease hardly at all.
No, we didn't.
talk about roads.
Yeah, so, thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 3, consider acceptance of Addison County Regional Planning Commission proposal to serve as Airport Drive Sidewalk Project Municipal Project Manager pending V-Trans's approval. Our transportation planner, Mike Winslow, is present.
Hopefully folks had a chance to look at the 2 documents that were provided. V-Trans offers, well, let me back up. As I pointed out in my notes, the,
Thank you,
Thank
Don.
Thank you.
Bye, Don.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
That V-Trans received a grant through Bristol received a grant through V-Trans for Airport Drive, a new sidewalk. And the funding program requires that a municipal project manager be hired. It gives the town a couple options, 3 options actually, to do it in-house if the staff are properly qualified, to put it out to bid to hire an engineer, or to contract with the Regional Planning Commission. So we reached out to the Regional Planning Commission to see if they have the interest, capacity, and are interested in doing this. And so we received a proposal, and V-Trans requires a questionnaire of the Regional Planning Commission to demonstrate experience and qualifications. So that was provided in your packet, as well as a budget proposal. And I think it's a very conservative budget proposal, and it's a not to exceed budget proposal of 19,000 something and change. And this is a $300,000 project estimated. You never really know.
So it's about 10%.
It's also a project shared with the school.
Correct.
district.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it. It's just, my thought was, I'd like to get more of a commitment from Mount Avis that we're gonna help you fund this. Because we have other sidewalks in town that are headed towards the school, like I think in West Pleasant, that are in terrible, terrible shape. And I think we need that sidewalk where we wanna put it, on Airport Drive.
Mhm.
But I don't wanna use up all of our sidewalk reserve fund, because the school said, well, we can't pass a budget, we're gonna give you $5,000 or $10,000. I think we need a commitment.
Frida and I had planned to meet with them with a memorandum of agreement that would put it in ink. And when we met with Floyd and Joel Fitzgerald, they were both very firm in their commitment. And then they said that the school has a reserve fund of resources that they have available to do it. It's important for their operations to provide safe access for students and others going to and from the school. And this is along Airport Drive, which they own a significant portion. It's on their property. So it differs from the other sidewalks in the town, because this is actually on their property. And so beyond the gate.
Sidewalk. Oh, yes.
Yeah, beyond the gate is on their property, which is a major rationale for them to be putting money toward it, because it's on their property. And the town is taking the responsibility and the everything else that goes with it of doing it, making it happen, the design, the construction, all that stuff on their property. So we need to have an agreement with them anyway.
Right.
And that's going to happen through the engineering process. There's probably gonna be some sort of right of way developed, some easement document or something that authorizes the town to be constructing anything on their property.
Yeah, half of the sidewalk is the schools.
Mhm.
It's about half the project.
Mhm.
Right,
So,
yeah, the line ends just past going into the rec field.
correct.
And it's really dangerous.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
now that it gets dark so early, I've
Wow.
been driving past there, like for Boy Scouts and stuff, and they're like kids darting out. I'm going slow, but they're like darting out. You can't see them until they're right in front of your headlights.
Did you
know?
see their field Saturday morning?
No.
Somebody got in there, they don't shut the gate anymore.
Oh,
Tear that place all up.
Where?
no.
With the
Drove
vehicle?
through it?
Oh,
what, the rec field?
The old donut, no, in the high school.
why is that fun?
Which
I don't
field?
get it.
They did, where between the
It's
road and the third parking lot.
Oh,
They did donuts in there, and then all the way down just north of all the parking lots between that and the main road going to the high school, they did donuts all in that. So I went there at 9 o'clock to get a roll with kids. Somebody didn't lock the gate. So, but anyway, that's different.
I move
So,
to
oops.
approve. What is it?
Motion,
19,056.2 not to exceed.
Yes,
okay,
as the
And we have-
municipal project manager.
okay, and we have a second from Ian. Any more discussion?
Well, also, I just want to point out that the NPM agreement needs to be approved by V-Trans. And so I will plan to, pending the outcome of this
Pending.
vote,
Mhm.
I will plan to send that out tomorrow, so we'll have to wait until they get their blessing.
So you talked about you and Frida were gonna meet with
We
the
were,
superintendent's union, so that won't happen. So the agreement with the school, do you feel that that would be on, that falls into Mike's responsibility?
Mike, no,
Or that you
not
said
necessarily.
Yeah,
No,
right.
Not necessarily.
Well, you talked about you would have to have an agreement with the school,
Right,
but that's separate than what the agreement for payment would be, correct?
No, the memo, I think would
yeah, I think it
include
would
the
be the
payment.
same thing.
The same.
The memorandum of agreement would be this, all the same thing.
Right, give us permission to
And-
work and their
Ideally, the
commitment.
municipal project manager would be able to assist us with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's assisting but not
Yeah.
driving.
Right, no, the town will be driving it.
Okay.
Come, just throw Mike under the bus.
So,
Yeah.
well, I'm
No pun
hoping, I'm
intended.
hoping to, but, it looks like he's fighting back.
I
Through
see our
Valerie.
role in this is negotiating the right of way portion of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
The actual payment portion of it.
no,
No,
That's-
no,
that's-
that would
No,
be
that's,
part of
that's
it.
what I want to understand, okay.
Okay,
yeah,
Yeah,
any more
that's all.
questions?
But I think you're absolutely right, Joel, we need to have that in place.
yeah, absolutely.
Eric?
Yeah, has there been any discussion on who's gonna maintain it? Are we gonna maintain?
They are going to maintain it because they hire somebody to plow the sidewalk sections that are there now that go along the trailer park.
Yeah.
And they would just do the same thing.
So
they're
we
gonna-
should make
are
sure
they gonna
that's in the
main-
memo too.
Are they gonna make, I think Eric's asking, from the gate to
To
Stony Hill, are they
Stony
gonna
Hill.
take?
Right, are they gonna maintain the road turnaround now, or are we gonna go up to the gate, turn around at the gate, you know, that's where Mount
Right.
Ave is, and then go back? I mean, are we gonna maintain our own? I'm assuming we are.
Right, to be finalized, but I believe you and I talked about this probably a couple of years ago.
We did.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking, I
Uh-huh.
don't remember.
And I think that the agreement at that time was to go to the gate and turn around.
Okay, that's what I want.
That'll be our
Do you,
responsibility
Yeah,
for the
you
yeah.
you
sidewalk
plow the road to the gate?
right now.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, because the sidewalk plow is gonna be going down that way anyway with Firehouse Drive and
Well,
whatever else.
we go like 10 feet around the corner now.
Right.
Yeah.
Val, do you remember as part of this project, is lighting part of it?
I don't believe so.
No,
Although at least they wouldn't be on the road if they were up on the
Yeah.
sidewalk at least.
My concern is still gonna be, I wanna see what the drawing is gonna be around that gate,
Mhm.
cause I don't see one high school kid, no offense. Comes in high
Staying on
school
the
to
sidewalk.
stay from the gate all the way to the trailer park and then go back to Mount A. I see him cut right across
Right.
in front of the gate.
well, you
Like,
can't stop that. I mean, you
No.
can't.
But I mean,
I
it would
think
be
it-
nice if we could
Sure
add
you
some
can.
lighting.
Yeah, and so through the design process,
Okay.
there might be capacity for that.
Okay, so we talked about
Okay.
trees when we were looking. at the
Right,
trees.
because there was a scoping study, and I presume that came up during the scoping study. I don't remember the details of it.
I don't remember it being as part of that, but
There were other utilities, because there's a water line and the hydrants right there and the fence and some other things.
There's
So
two poles.
I don't remember the lighting discussion,
Okay.
but presumably, no.
Yeah, it talks about moving the hydrant, right?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
To the other
Okay.
side of the road.
Okay, so we've
So
got a
that-
motion and a second. Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So
Abstained?
you move to approve?
Yeah.
And you second?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, number-
thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
He's not done yet.
You got a bunch of stuff.
You got a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Consider results of
I'm
the next
thanking him
steps
for
for
that. I know he's
ACR,
got more.
PSCs,
I'll be
North
thanking him
Street
again for this.
traffic and village speed limit studies. ACRPC transporter planner Michael Winslow. So we had this, if you remember right, I think before you
Traffic
could
study
study, Donnie,
this summer.
because we thought about lowering the speed limit in the village.
Somebody
25.
complained,
No.
no, somebody complained about the truck traffic.
Right,
And we
So
thought
that's what it
was
it
for.
mostly
well, we
people.
had that, before the truck traffic, we had, you know, streets, my street, Pine Street,
Right.
and this and that, and so.
So what
They
did
were
you
separate.
find out, Mike?
So the request came to the regional planning
Come
commission.
join us
Yeah,
at
you
the
can join
table.
us. That's a lovely chair. too. I'll warn you.
Yeah.
Don't fall off.
Yes.
So the request came to the Regional Planning Commission for traffic study on North Street to figure out rerouting trucks, or I wasn't entirely clear what we were being asked to do. But it was stuff that I could do within my purview without having to go out and hire a consultant. So we conducted the traffic study on North Street, which included analysis of quantities of trucks, which was not disproportionate. There's no more truck traffic there than anything else. And looking at other data, there's no more truck traffic in Bristol compared to other towns in Addison County. From what with information I'm able to gather. And then in talking with Valerie, there was discussion about the previous speed studies that I'd done in a village-wide speed limit.
Yeah.
Typically, V-Trans does not recommend village-wide speed limits, but the data for the streets where I have collected data support that for most of it. I mean, as you go out North Street, speeds increase. It doesn't support it there as much. Main Street, you might want to consider keeping it a little higher because it is such a major thoroughfare. But for ease of ordinance, it is possible for all those smaller neighborhoods to have speed limits around 25 that would be supported. And I think what was missing in previous communications is the definition of what an engineering study does. And basically what I gave you the last time I was here, that is an engineering study.
Okay.
And I can provide more information. I can provide all sorts of detail from those studies, but I need a better sense of what sort of information would be helpful to you.
Do you know if the state of Vermont or any other hierarchical organization requires documentation? If the
Yes.
select board passes an ordinance to lower the speed limit, which is what would be necessary, and the ordinance takes effect after X number of days, and then the town swaps out the signs, the relevant signs, what else needs to happen?
The studies need to be kept on record.
Do they need to be delivered to somebody?
No.
They just need to be
The
on a
town
shelf
has
somewhere?
control of your own roads.
Okay,
The question comes if those speed limits are enforced and somebody challenges that they're not
In
legitimate, that's when you need to have those studies on record.
I think that's what we were led to believe or told, that if the state doesn't say, no, we don't approve of you going to 25, but you can, and there's so many years that
5 years.
5 years, and then they're approved, whether the state says, no, you can't.
Yep.
5 years, we held on to them and nobody challenged them in court, so then they,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah, so you need to keep those records for that 5-year period in case they are challenged.
Mike, I have to ask you.
Mhm.
And this says fastest speed 131. Are you saying somebody was actually going 131 miles an hour, or there were 131 people going over the speed limit?
That says somebody was going 131 miles an hour, but I just printed that out from the data. I haven't gone in. I can go look at that
I was like,
individual.
Whoa.
I can look at that individual record
Person doing the
and
donuts.
frequently what happens is the
Or
machine
if
misread it.
It was Peter heading home.
With his vet.
I know, exactly.
what were you
But
looking
didn't
at?
Bruce-
Was
but
it
didn't-
one of these?
Yeah, the very bottom one.
Yeah.
It says
But
fastest
didn't Bruce
speed.
tell us,
Which
and I don't mean to put words in Bruce's mouth, but didn't we, a few years ago, we had the speed cart set up down by Jimmy Cousineau's down on Lower Notch Road. And, just above Jimmy's before they went up the hill, and they caught somebody doing over 100 coming down the hill. It was like at 3:30 in the morning.
Yep.
No, I would believe
So-
that, but
So I
going to town,
think,
it's.
I think I remember him telling us that.
Yeah, I had
Although
some really,
I'm not
high
really
records.
good.
Street, like, you know,
I-
getting out to.
I had a series of really high records with a study I did in Waltham, and I questioned them. So when I went into the data, it made me think that they were misreadings.
Mhm.
It's a possibility, but people do fly,
They
and
do.
not a lot.
Mhm.
But I can tell you right the time of that
Yeah.
record.
So
So I was just like, okay, does that?
What is our
mean
next
this,
step?
Or does that?
move this along. What is our next steps, folks?
5 miles an hour, what do you think you're gonna get? What do you think it gets you?
Well,
Reducing
remember we
it
had
5 miles an
the
hour.
room filled up and people said, Joel, you really want somebody doing 25 miles an hour on Library Lane? And I said, yeah, because right now they can do 30. You know, I was looking more for it than we were looking at a stop sign on every intersection on Pine Street, with just lower to 25 and see what that does.
I just don't know
I'm
what
not
it's gonna
saying that we
gain
have to
you.
do it either, huh?
I just don't know what it's gonna gain you.
You know, I know Eric is not a fan of speed bumps, and I don't like them either. I plowed over them and tore them out over to Mount Abe the years I plowed over there. But, you know, if you've ever been up to Burlington High School now, they have a speed ramp
Mhm.
going out to the high school on North Avenue. And I hit that with a bus at 25 miles an hour, and you hardly know it.
You wanna go over the ones in Huntington at 25 miles an hour.
No, but
Do the
then
one-
that one was as long as this room almost, and just but there was a car coming, when I was coming back from Burlington High School with a load of kids on. Somebody was going north on North Avenue, doing about 45, and they hit that thing, and the lights were going just like that, and I'm going, it was designed to say, if you do your speed limit, you're not gonna go throw your around.
You ever try the
also-
ones, what's the road that connects Route 116 to is it
Oh,
Marshall
Wilson.
Ave?
Yes.
That one?
Oh,
Oh my
those are
God, have you
terrible.
tried to do those?
Those are terrible.
Also, I mean, we talked about doing some other things too. So it was lowering the speed limit. It was also changing all of the speed, the solar speed arrays as you come into town. I live right next to one of those on East Street, the one when you come up the hill. I can see it from 2 windows in my house. And what I have to tell you is that since putting it in, you know, because we kind of watch, because it flashes red, so you can see when somebody's speeding. And the number of cars that slow down immediately when they get that red flashing, there are some that ignore it, but most of them slow down. Most of them slow down because they feel that, you know, they're not paying attention,
Well, no,
or
'cause
they
it gets
realize
red
they're
by
coming
almost
into
30.
town. But we've seen speeds decrease pretty dramatically there with just that sort of educational thing of like, you're going too fast. Sometimes people just don't realize
Well,
it.
the average speed there, the previous test was 37.
Yeah, so
Well, it's
now, I
Funny,
mean,
you'll see the people like, they'll be doing 40. And
But
then
I
as they
don't
come
see-
up the hill, they just kind of glide up the hill.
but I
and
don't see
slow up
anyone
before they
doing
get to
40
that.
anymore. When
I
they
mean-
first put it in at 40, it starts flashing at
Yeah.
you.
Well, now it
And-
flashes at 28.
I think if
before-
people just,
Right, right.
most of them, and I do, I see them and I say, oh, boy, I am got a little heavy.
Right, exactly. It
Pinker's
helps.
brother-in-law and sister told me, the one when they lived on North Street, Pine Tree Gardens, that made a difference.
It makes a difference. And then also if we
You
do
know, I've showed you
things-
these
Right, and if
over in
we,
Waitsfield.
and if we do the things on
And
Pine
Warren
Street
has
where
this.
we reduce the how wide the
Or the
lanes
town
look,
offices, or the car
you know, it's
station.
all of these
You
things
know,
oh, the
together,
sheriffs,
I
yeah.
think, that
The
make a
sheriff,
difference.
You know?
I mean, the majority of the data from
I love
the
them.
previous regional planning commission's studies showed that most of the roads, people were going below 30 miles an hour.
Mhm,
Like the big worry when we began this discussion a few years ago was Pine Street.
mhm.
And the data that those tests showed was that people were going under 30,
Yeah.
which meant it's a good candidate for lowering the speed limit. It's actually the opposite. You need to demonstrate speeds that are lower than your speed
Then
limit.
your current.
For
speed limit, right.
V-Trans, but for the
to
residents.
To
you
then
know.
say, hey, you can lower it to 25. On the roads like Liberty, which were much higher, cars were going an average of like, I don't know, 35 or 40 sometimes. That's when they don't support you changing your speed limit to 25 because it's not gonna help. You need to do other mitigation things to lower the speed.
Right, you can
You
put
know,
in
the width
stop
of the road
signs.
or
It's,
speed
it's
bumps.
all about backing up and saying, what is the problem you're trying to solve? If the problem is a few people speeding,
Right.
those few people are gonna drive the same speed no matter what the sign says.
Mhm.
And it seems like from the data, both newly collected data here and our previous, is that it's a few bad actors within the amount, but unfortunately, those are what's remembered most of the time, and that's what brings concern,
But also,
especially on Pine.
part of the problem there is people who are going from Pine over to Liberty to
Correct.
cut
To
off
cut
the
through.
light.
Or Liberty to Pine.
Right, and so
Yeah.
if we slow Pine down, I just don't know if we'll see as many of those problems. If people get it in their head that it doesn't matter which way you go, you don't save any
Right.
time, then maybe they won't be
I mean,
racing through
the
those
only,
neighborhoods.
the only advantage to putting it down to 25 is then Bruce can issue the tickets. I mean, right now he can't issue tickets at 25. You'd have to lower the speed limit in order for him to issue tickets.
Yeah.
For people doing
And
it.
he said he
Isn't
would
the
do
problem, though,
warnings.
the people that are exceeding the speed limit, so it's an enforcement issue as well. I mean, the difference between 25 and 27.
It's two.
Yeah. and
Right, but the
I
difference
want that
if you're-
pass, for God's sakes.
It hurts at either speed.
Exactly.
You're getting hit.
So, do you
And
have?
the thing
data
is
that
that
data's
a
supporting it?
32 mile an hour ticket
Right.
isn't worth the time for the officer to stop and write it, where
At 25,
at
a
25,
$32,
it's
or
7 miles an hour, it's.
Yeah, 34 miles an hour ticket ain't worth hardly.
Well,
Right,
so,
if it's a
and you
30
have
mile.
data that is like Is it a real issue? Is it a perceived issue or is it a real issue?
We've had a lot of complaints though.
I
from
see it,
people who
Sally, just a
live on
minute.
those streets, and a couple of really close calls where Bruce has been called to adjudicate because kids almost got hit on Maple. So in those instances, if it's your kid, you have this like really close call.
I mean,
it's
I
totally
do have
fine.
kids, well, mine did play in the street, but they
Yeah.
knew better. They knew not to play in the street. They would play on the sidewalk and.
But some of these vehicles are really flying, like they're, you know, they're trying to cut off the lights so they can get out of town quickly. And
Is that what
so
the data showing us though? Is it that many of them? So I
I
get
don't
the
know,
one,
but you just need one.
Yeah, but you can't,
but that same person's still gonna do 40 miles an hour, whether you post it at 5 miles an hour or not.
Until they get like 2 or 3 tickets.
It doesn't stop them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Sally, you had a question?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. The main thing on Pine Street is there are no sidewalks and there's very little border on the side, so that if you are walking or riding a bike and a car is coming, you don't really have a safe way to get off that road. So that's why it's so important to slow it down a bit and, you know, more time for people to react, cars react, bikers or walkers. It's so much easier to walk around on the other roads because there's such a buffer and there's sidewalks, and then you get to Pine and it's like, whoa, this is scary. So I think that's a good reason for bringing down the, you know, to a 25-mile or to have advisory lanes. But I think it's probably cheaper to put the 25-mile-an-hour thing up than advisory lanes. Either one of
That
those
road is
would really
wider
help.
now, right?
It's
Is that,
about two-
Pine Street is now wider.
It's about 2.5 feet wider than it used to be.
Right.
thanks, Sally.
That will
Thanks,
drive
Sally.
the speeds up.
Huh?
That will increase the speeds.
Right.
That's what we've gotten resident complaints
Yeah.
that that's happening.
So
Well, the
this-
reason I put it that wide is because I knew at some point
We were gonna put in.
they were
the
gonna
lanes.
put the advisory lanes in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
no,
need
it
to do
allows us more flexibility.
You couldn't do it with the way that it was
You know,
before. And I knew that was coming down the pipe, so.
As you all know, I live on that street. I'm out on the road all the time, I'm raking lawn or doing something. And I ask the walkers walking by. And most of them say, you know, the traffic, people see us there and they'll
They move
slow
over,
down or
slow
stop and
down.
go around us, or they go, we don't see a real problem. That's the walkers are telling me.
I haven't had a problem on that road, and I run and walk on that road. Yeah, 116 is another story.
Yeah. So what do we want to do, people? You want to let this simmer on the pot and
Well,
Wanna
what
do
are
any
you
action?
next, what's the next steps people wanna do, yeah. I mean, I guess you gotta.
I mean, Michelle, you
What
and
the
I
goal
were,
was.
you know, Bruce had
What
testified.
are the
earlier.
signage implications if we were to do to leave,
Change it to 25
Yeah, we
well,
have to replace this.
if we were to leave North Street and Main Street
at
at
30.
30 and change the other streets, do we have to sign them at
You have
every
to sign
intersection?
Every street.
Right.
Your sign even.
You can't we just sign north and
30.
east, West Street, whatever, and
No,
then
because you
say all the
can't-
rest are 25?
You can't do it because, if you got them each way coming in, that all villages 30, 25, whatever. And then you change North Street to 30, but you're gonna leave the others at 25, then you're gonna have to sign every other street. Or not every other, all streets, because that signage coming in isn't gonna be applicable anymore.
Cause you got one on South Street, it says 30
But
miles.
do we
an hour.
have
Yeah,
to
but-
sign, do
Otherwise
we only
posted.
have to sign them where they leave North Street,
You'd have-
West Street? Or do we have to sign every intersection?
Each end.
How come I see somewhere it says all streets in town are 25 except where?
Unless otherwise.
Unless otherwise
noticed,
posted.
Right,
So if that is the case, it actually says that, then you could probably do North Street at 30.
Yeah.
But you'd have,
You'd put a sign there with the 30-mile-an-hour.
With the 30
speed
mile an
limit
hour.
Says
Say-
that all streets are
oh,
25.
right,
Unless
you come
otherwise,
in by
unless
Lord
otherwise
Barrow.
posted.
and then put a 30-mile-an-hour
No.
speed
Above
limit
it.
on North Street.
Right,
Well,
on
no,
North
but
Street
you
and on
leave the
West Street.
25 down by Lord's Prairie Rock, and then when you turn on the North Street, you'd have a 30-mile-an-hour sign.
Well, and it would be 30 at Lord's Fair Rock too. We're saying West Street, Main Street, stay at 30, and North Street, and then the rest all
I'm
25.
not
Isn't that
sure.
what you said,
Yeah.
Beaker?
Yeah.
East.
Yeah.
Why are we keeping Maine at 30? Maine
Because
should
it's
be,
a
Want
main
it to be
thoroughfare.
slow.
Maine should be 25,
Yeah.
no, Maine should be much lower than that.
even lower than, not stay at 30, it should be 20, 25.
Or lower. I mean, with all the diagonal parking and the backing up, people still fly through there. One of the
Well,
big-
and if people didn't pull across and like park diagonally on the other side of the road.
Yeah, you wanna have it slower where your main business, shopping area is. I think that's good. But I think you need to do it all, everything be the same. I think it's way too
just
complicated.
easier, just everything 25.
But I don't necessarily think the speed limit change is gonna do that much. I think there are other ways to do it. I'd like to see the flashing sign by your house, I think should be moved further down.
Yeah.
Because by the time people
Everyone's-
have left that, by the time they hit where Mountain Street is, they're going just as fast as they were. when
Right, because they
when
passed the sign, so they
yeah.
speed
So
back up
I think
again.
we should move that then, because the people are going way too fast onto Main Street. And I think we should do a push button crosswalk at Pleasant and North.
Yes,
If we
that's a
move
really
that,
dangerous
if we
one.
move that sign, say we move that sign up to,
By Mountain Street.
Mountain
Richard,
Street.
Richard
Richard
Butts,
Butts' house,
Richard
yeah.
Butts,
they're just gonna fly
they're gonna
past.
go by 40 by her house.
Yep, they
Mm-hmm.
are.
I know.
Mhm.
Then maybe
So
we should
Lawrence-
move,
Lawrence-
maybe we
another-
should
another
move that
zone.
one down
It's
by
in
Lawrence
between. It's an
Curve.
odd one
Right.
because you're going.
Then put one up by Richard Butts.
Because if we move it down by the bottom of the hill, you're going to be going slower as you go up the hill. So
Yeah, but then they're just gonna speed up
No, then put one
sooner.
further up
And-
towards Richards.
Well, I
George
think
Most
so
of this-
before,
But two of them
yeah,
on
that
that
would work,
street.
yeah.
You're saying put two,
Eventually, you're gonna have too many signs and people just aren't gonna care. They're gonna ignore them.
you're right.
You're gonna oversign it. You oversign things, people stop paying attention.
I mean, I agree with you about the crosswalk on Pleasant Street.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of kids.
Because they don't have a school guard
They're
anymore.
not just
school
kids.
And
crossing
people,
guards.
and yeah, people don't stop even when you're standing there with a bunch of kids.
What, the crosswalk at Pleasant?
Pleasant, yeah.
Spring?
Yeah,
Yeah, I shouldn't say.
It's a freeway crossing.
I priced that light out, that crosswalk lights out for that
Mhm.
intersection,
Mhm.
about 14 grand.
Yeah.
The one at the Firehouse Drive, I think was about 14.
Mhm.
And there are funds available for at least half that.
yeah,
cost.
I think
Right.
that, but I think that's important. I think that one's very important.
I do.
I'm not sure that this, to
I
me,
mean,
the
I-
speed limit is not as.
But I think you do all these things together, right?
Yes.
Like you try your best to do these things together, like you get the light, we reduce the speed, we do the advisory striping, like.
And the
we-
speed bumps.
And we educate people.
I mean, the other night I went to West Rutland and I'm going through Proctor. And you get right to the Proctor line and it from 50 to 25. And you crawl through the town of Proctor.
Well, after you're doing 50, yeah, 25 feels like
Well,
a crawl.
There's a thing about that too, because you can't go from 50 to
Right, there
25.
has to be a
Yeah, it's just- it has to be a
Yeah.
road- I
I
mean,
don't believe
And
it
there's
is.
certain
They
distances
do.
that you have to
They
do.
don't.
There's supposed to be a transition. zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through there.
Anytime you have a change of
Yeah.
10 miles an hour or more, there's supposed to be a transition.
Yeah.
zone.
Maybe there might be a 40 there and then a 20.
Yeah, you just
You're
ignored it.
just-
No, I didn't see it.
If the first
It's way up
sign,
by the John Deere dealer. You know,
if the first sign is yellow, that's a transition zone. It's only the
Yeah,
white
interesting.
one that's actually the speed limit.
and I thought, geez, way up here, you're 25.
All right,
So what do we wanna do, people? Wanna let this sit and simmer?
Yeah, and I just wanna make sure, like, if you do have more questions, there's data we can get, and there's data that I would wanna hire somebody else to get, so just as long
Yeah.
as clear as I am as to what I can provide you.
I think we need a clearer plan of what we might like to explore.
Yeah,
Should this
what
be
our goals are.
presented to the bike ped committee?
Yes, yeah, I think we should ask them for a plan.
Not a plan,
No, no.
I wouldn't say a
I would say
plan,
no.
To bring
They
something.
beat it to death.
input.
Oh,
I think they've beaten it to death. I know what,
we should still.
I'm
Well,
not-
they keep presenting stuff to us and then we keep shooting it down.
Yeah.
Right.
they wanna make Pine Street a one-way, I believe, or stop signs on every intersection.
No, I think they've come around to the advisory lane. I gave them your picture that you sent
Yeah.
and they liked it from.
And then we've
what I
got
heard, Jimmy
we've
might
got
know
to
more.
budget money for striping every year for it,
Right,
and it's expensive
Yeah, it was about 5,000.
for that one street.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim.
Does this study show that there's a problem? It appears to me that there's no problem. So are we gonna cave into a small group of people that are hardly gonna use it anyway? And like Chris was saying, if the study shows that there's not a problem, what are we getting involved with? Because somebody complained about it? You guys gotta learn to say no. I've been telling you that for 20 years. Say
You
no
have,
once in a
Jimmy.
while.
Yeah, but we've actually had a lot of complaints about it from lots of different groups, so
What are they
they're,
complaining?
so the group that was looking at the AARP walkable cities or walkable towns, they were complaining about the fact that they wanted to get out and move more, and they felt like there were lots of places that were dangerous to do that. And then we've had lots of families, our tree warden, like lots of people with children have complained that they've had really, really close calls
Not to
and,
cut you off, Jesse, you say
Yeah.
lots of people, where are the documentation?
yeah.
Somebody keeping a record of this.
I mean,
Yeah, so when I first started trying to figure out this process, I used the information that there were two groups, one that was a biking group and one that was looking at sidewalks and walking. And they collected lots of information, plus we did surveys. So we did find that there was a fairly large problem as far as the number of people who wanted these changes. And then, you know, Sally and all the people who've been speaking up, they do want these changes and they want the town to be walkable and they want it to be safe for their kids to go to school. So all the changes that we're thinking about, like the flashing light on North and Pleasant, you know, there's a main intersection for the school. And I volunteer with the after school program and I've tried to take kids across that intersection and it was really dangerous. Like we were almost hit. I thought the truck was stopping. I really did. And they were not stopping. They sped up.
You feel like that's a good idea, yeah.
I think
So I mean,
that's
I
an
just,
excellent
I think
idea.
there are
One of those
lots of, but like
blinking
Pine
signs.
Street, like Sally was complaining about, you know, I think that there are certain parts of the town that aren't working for people who are biking and walking. And those are the things that we should be paying attention to because those are people who are using it every day and they say there's a problem.
So
And
the
then of course
challenge,
there's budgetary problems too, it's very expensive. The
Yeah.
Signage and.
And
striping.
that's why we should apply for grants. I agree. Yeah,
so the
yeah.
challenge that I've had is, I keep getting these ideas of, here's the solution to the problem. And I'm not sure I understand the problem.
Mhm.
So and you mentioned perception, that people perceive there's a problem. Are those in particular spaces? Are they particular events, particular drivers?
Yeah, so
I
we.
just haven't,
we
I don't
went-
feel like that's defined.
When we
enough.
went through the original surveys and the biking group and the walking group, they walked through the town and they also collected information. And then we also talked to Bruce about where there are accidents and where he sees violations and speeding and complaints. So what we did was we tried to look at, I think we came up with there were 5 particular parts of the town that were especially problematic. So it was Pine to Liberty, Pine to Maple, and then certain crosswalks that were around the school. And they used to have crossing guards. So we used a low-tech solution. We would have like crossing guards and they would stand there and they would stop traffic and let the kids go back and forth. And then that fell out, it stopped, you know, they stopped doing that program. So then the idea was that we could use technology instead and get the flashing crosswalk lights instead of people. I mean, I think there are other solutions out there, but like, if somebody has to, you know, mobilize people and get them out there with the right equipment at the right times. And I think it just became hard.
The public also has to be trained as well.
Yeah,
Because the reason I'm saying that is you just don't walk out into a crosswalk and
yeah,
expect a car to stop. You have to stop, look,
Make eye contact.
make
Yeah.
sure nobody's coming or that person's stopping. You
Yeah.
just don't automatically walk out, which a
And-
fair number of people do that,
And they can't be walking with their earbuds and headphones on.
you know, and that's,
and I
yeah,
think
even
doing,
though
yeah,
the
doing
town needs,
public
you need to do some
education is
stuff.
great.
But the public also has to take some foot in this as well.
Yeah,
You gotta be
So-
responsible.
So part of my offer to Valerie is not just to bring this to the select board, but I can bring it to other groups or
Mhm.
other participants if it would help further some sort of aim. But this was the first place to start.
yeah, thank you.
But you really need to know what the problem is.
But
before you-
Yeah.
or
We
that
have
will be an outcome of a larger meeting, is to help define what the problem is. But
Yeah.
to the extent that data can help with these perceptions, you have data and I can get you other data if it matters.
Well, I know, you know, anytime that, and that children are playing in the street and a car goes by, number one, children shouldn't be
Shouldn't
in
be
the
street,
street,
yeah.
but the car is gonna be perceived to be going too fast.
Right.
Right.
You know, that's whether they are or not.
Right.
And I'm not saying they
They are.
all are or they all aren't.
Right.
It's just the perception of them going by, if you're that close, it's fast. And to go back before the crossing guards, we had, school patrol.
Yes.
We didn't have as much traffic, we would stop the students from crossing, because we had to walk from.
Bristol
the-
High, Old Bristol
Yeah.
High, up to the school for lunch.
Yeah,
They wouldn't bus us.
Wouldn't bus us.
it was good for you to get exercise.
Yeah, and we walked from Robinson School down to the old, well, down where the library is in Starkville. That's where we had our lunch when I was in school. From the old school, walk down the side of 116
Yeah.
for lunch.
Okay, so wanna let this just sit? People,
And
Or
I'm happy to talk to I'm supposed to be the select board liaison with the bicycle and pedestrian committees, so I can take it to them and see if they want to put together any suggestions to bring to the select.
I mean, I
board.
think we need to figure out what the goals are.
Yeah.
You know, what the problem is and what the
I mean-
goals are.
I'm not opposed to lowering it 25, and I'm not opposed to leaving it 30. I know that sounds like I'm on the fences, but I was looking for a compromise for Pine Street. Because my neighbors keep telling me, people on that street, all we're gonna hear is brakes stopping and going, stopping and going.
And there is some evidence that that method of traffic control, people speed up between
Right.
the.
They
To
stop
make
on
up,
it to
to
get
make
the
up
next
for the
one, so-
time, for the time they had to stop.
And I was looking for a compromise.
Calming is a better,
Yeah.
there's better traffic calming and stop signs.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So, okay,
I know
Sorry.
that, tractor trailer in the road in front of Bristol Works seems to calm traffic pretty well.
he does.
So does a police car with the lights on.
I mean, the last 2 years ago, Bruce had the sign plugged into my outlet out by the road all summer long. That slowed him down, let me tell you.
Yeah, it does.
And just to circle back on the truck survey, that was in response to concerns that were brought to the select board about the quantity and the speed, the perceived speed of trucks going up and down North Street in terms of sound, the noise impact, potential air quality impact, and of course, speed. And your study did not find anything conclusive that there's anything unusual.
No
Well,
increase.
There's nothing unusual in the percentage of trucks on that road compared to other roads.
Yeah.
What I haven't done but can do is break it down to see are trucks going a different speed than other vehicles. I can take a look at that. That's the sort of
I'm
thing
not
like I
sure it's
wanted to
worth
make.
that.
Well, that's.
I mean, the complaint was more,
How
they
much
thought there were
every-
more
I-
trucks coming
Well,
in
there
on
was,
that road.
there was some evidence because of,
And there were more trucks.
Yeah.
Storms that
Through
we've
the
had.
flood,
The
there
storms,
were
yes.
more trucks.
Mhm.
I know there was.
But it was
because-
temporary.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
wasn't.
I mean,
wasn't
it
a
shows
given.
because your data comes after that,
Mhm.
those events.
I mean, if we ask you
And
for
so
that,
that the trucks aren't more on that particular street than other streets, so.
if we ask you for that data for January and February, our data's really gonna, our truck traffic's really gonna drop like through the roof on North Street because those pits are closed.
And I can't get that data in January from.
No, you see what I'm-
Eric's gonna take up my
No,
line.
no, but you know- yeah, but no, you see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It all has to do with, like I said, if the truck traffic has gotta go to above Moncton, they can't go Moncton Road, they gotta come around, come back down North Street, go up 116 and get to Heinsberg. They can't use Moncton Road, Silver Street.
Well, they can, they just don't want to get caught.
You don't wanna get caught, it's $2,400 fine, and it's
More than that.
yeah.
Well, look
You
at all
go
the tractor
around.
trailer trucks that go over 108 and there's big signs there that said $2,500
Michelle, what I
fine.
keep saying to you, you can't fix stupid,
Well,
okay?
then any policies we do, you can't fix stupid.
All right, so we're gonna let this sit, people?
Yeah.
For four?
For
Yes.
All right,
For now.
Okay, thank you.
very well.
Thank
All
you,
right, thank
Mike.
you, Michael.
I'll hit you up, Mike, on that crosswalk.
Okay, no problem.
Consider a suspension of stop sign enforcement at the
Might be
intersection of
interested
Bricks
in
Hill
your opinion
Road
on this next item
and
as
Lincoln
well.
Road during the road closure, at least for the winter months. I've been wanting to close, I wanted to take that stop sign on Lincoln Road off since we opened the bridge up.
You have or have
Well,
not?
wait a
I've been
minute.
wanting to take it down.
The one on Briggs Hill,
No,
that's the one
No.
they're asking for.
no, the
Yeah.
one
No, the
before,
Briggs
prior
Hill.
to Briggs Hill, coming down Lincoln Road.
The
Like
first
you
one
have to
that you mean.
stop and then you pull.
Yeah, I
forward
know
just-
Right
which
there.
one, but I
That one
thought,
right there,
Right there.
right there.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were talking about the ones on the one on Briggs Hill.
No.
No, you can't get rid of that one.
No, you
Well,
can't.
I tried
There's
for a
still
while.
Driveway there.
Yeah, there's a driveway.
Now,
I think
why-
that makes
why did we
sense to
put
me,
that-
'cause I
why
don't
did we
stop
put this
at
one
it
up?
anymore.
Originally?
Why
That
what?
one there
What's
was,
that stop
When the
sign?
bridge was built.
no, that one there was put up originally, so people turning on the Lincoln Road, then wanna turn on to Briggs Hill to go up,
Would have time
would
without
have
people.
time, cause they'd have to stop, and then they could go across rather than backing traffic out
Traffic up.
on 116.
Right,
And during the bridge.
yes, it does work.
No.
Yeah, they put that up. during the-
Originally for the bridge. but it
Thank you,
stayed
thank
up.
you.
But that's not why it stayed there.
No, it stayed there because. we
It
had-
stayed there because of Briggs Hill, basically, to allow traffic to go up Briggs Hill. And not have to stay in line, like, if, you know, you.
And wait
morning
until
traffic
somebody's
coming-
nice to let you through.
Well, that's just it, morning traffic coming down in there, you get 15, 20 cars in a row. And Briggs Hill is blocked, so then you
Right.
got somebody wanting to
You got
turn
bigger-
onto Briggs Hill. They
And now
can't
you
do it,
back out
and then
into
you back out
116.
onto 116.
Right.
So Eric, do you think that if they stopped enforcing this stop sign, that it would be fine since you can't use the bottom part of this road or?
That would be a Bruce question.
Okay, and we just have his, is he on?
He's
on.
Okay,
Bruce
so
is
he
on.
can answer. Cause
So
we just have. what we
earlier in the
chose.
year, Bruce had recommended against it because people have been observed going up there, even with the road closed to park, because there is a private driveway there. And folks might have been parking there to go over to the river and
Mhm.
walk, and then, so if they go up there, that means they're gonna come down eventually. So I think there was still a public safety concern.
Still got a stop sign there, though. They gotta stop coming down that hill.
Right, but no,
any-
she's talking about people, letting
Wanna
people to
turn
get
on the
up,
Briggs
turn
Hill.
up into
Right.
Briggs Hill.
Bruce,
It's not the coming down.
Bruce, any new thoughts you might have?
I still, as long as there's access to Briggs Hill, I think it's a bad idea to remove the stop sign.
Okay.
Well,
You,
that's also-
you're gonna, you, when they installed the stop sign, it was to make that area safe. And if you
Yeah.
remove the stop sign with access, you're making it more unsafe.
Okay.
Okay,
And then we're gonna have to re-educate everybody when
Yep.
we open the road back up.
Yeah, I'd say if we decide right now to permanently close that road forever, let's remove that
Yeah.
stop sign. If we're not, then I'd say that stop sign stays.
Well, you got the conversations in the wrong order then.
I think I know the answer to the second one, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the thing for this item was whether there was any logic or interest in putting a bag over the stop sign for just the winter. 'cause-
let's just go with it. I would say let's
Yeah,
go.
no,
ahead and
I,
just leave it.
I don't disagree. I
Okay.
was just saying, it was
Okay,
Easy enough,
Where did the request come from?
two different people who travel.
travel up and down.
I guess my point I'm trying to make, and not disrespect what Bruce is saying, so I'm coming into town, I'm turning down Liberty Street, and there's a line of traffic coming from West Street, coming past Martin's, coming from the mobile, okay, and I can't turn left. Okay, and I'm backing traffic up. Are we gonna put a stop sign on West Street so I can turn left?
Yeah, but
That's what we're doing here.
No, you're not.
Here we are.
You're backing traffic up on.
I can back traffic up all the way down Stony Hill if I.
Yeah, but you're.
I've seen it backed up all the way past the firehouse.
Let him talk.
But you're on the same road, Joel. You're not backing traffic out from one road onto another road.
Right.
I get your point, but I just.
And I
And
just,
from two different directions.
and from, yeah, and you're only backing it out on your direction.
And in all reality too, that when you have traffic on Briggs Hill, that stop also makes that so much nicer to come down. I mean, while there is a stop sign on Briggs Hill,
I've
you
had,
pull out there, it's.
I've had people from Lincoln tell me they don't stop coming down Briggs Hill. They just come right down through.
Well, they may not stop, but they look to make sure there's nothing coming the other way, because I'm sure there's people that come on that stop line. and don't
And if
stop.
they're enforcing that other stop sign and they run that one, they're gonna get stopped too.
Yeah, I hope so.
Joel.
Okay,
Kelly had a question.
Kelly, go ahead.
So this is Marshall and Kelly Hammond. We're the owners of the driveway on Briggs Hill.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And as far as we know, there should be exactly one car going up and down to that driveway. So if there are others doing it, we have some concerns, and we don't see any reason why the Lincoln stop sign should remain if there's that little traffic on that road during the winter, while the Briggs Hill Road is closed.
I mean, as much as I'd like to see it moved, I guess we're not going to, because I don't wanna move it just temporarily. If we're gonna open the road back up this summer and get it repaired, and then, because you get people get in habit, oh, there's no sign there now, then we put it back up in 4 months. And so,
Yeah.
okay,
So maybe we should discuss the next item
Yeah,
then, right?
Okay.
well, I
Thank you
gotta,
very much.
Thank
thank you,
you.
Kelly
Thank you, Kelly and Marshall.
and Marshall.
Yeah.
So what do you wanna do with 5? Leave it hang in here, or you want?
Leave it as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna get a motion or just?
You can't make a negative motion.
No,
Or just
Nope.
take no action.
no action. Okay, that's all I was looking for. Continued discussion of Briggs Hill Road repair, brief update on FEMA funding and next steps.
Yeah, Ian, I'll probably need a little help here.
First of all, did you and Eric and the FEMA guy? go
Well,
up there and
FEMA,
meet?
we
Or
haven't
whoever?
heard, we haven't heard from the engineer. That's who we were supposed to meet with.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what we left it at last
you're
time.
welcome to stay, but you, unless you're interested.
No, I'm interested.
Okay. So I think let's see, we presented the list of questions to the FEMA folks that the select board came up with. And basically, they will not fund the select board seeking additional options. And if the select board seeks additional options like the riprap option going up, and they choose not to, and the select board chooses not to follow the engineer's original plan, then none of it is reimbursable through FEMA, zippo.
It's considered new, you can't go back, it's already been done.
Right.
What was asked for has been done.
So they can't engineer other alternatives such as the riprap?
Even if it was
Even
gonna
if it's
save the
cheaper,
federal
right?
government money.
Correct.
Wow.
We're not in the
Because
same.
to them, that it's, the request has come through and the request has been completed in terms of what the engineer has supplied to them.
Well, I guess what I was looking for, actually I talked with your old road foreman from Starkville last night at the fire, was to try to have the engineers and you guys look at a different concept with, like they did on State Prison Hollow Road. Drive some sheet pilings in halfway down that bank.
Yeah,
I
but what
mean,
they're saying
we
is,
can do that, but we pay for
We
that.
pay for it.
Right.
Do we pay for the fix?
Prices on that.
Do we pay for the fix? Or if the engineer says, I think that's an idea, we can run some numbers and it's a few $1,000s to run some numbers and say, that could work, then would they,
No, they don't
No.
consider that,
No,
FEMA wouldn't consider
it's-
that,
because
because the
it's a-
new plan's already been.
because it's a completely different thing.
That is totally asinine.
It is.
Well, that's your
Yeah.
government for you.
But part of it is, I think,
There might be another way.
Wait, Mike, go ahead, Mike.
I'm not sure about this, I'm not the emergency management person, but if you abandoned it and went to mitigation as a funding source, then you start over again.
correct. And they can do that, they're willing to sort of pull things and create a new project. But it's questionable how much might then be funded. They won't answer in a definite what will or won't be funded.
Of course not.
But
So,
they'll give us, if we could cut that to $500,000 from 2.5 million, they'll give us
Even to $1 million.
90% of 2.5 million.
yeah, but there's also discrepancies in terms of what Du Bois and King presented to them. And it seems like they run internal numbers of what it should cost, and there are big pricing discrepancies, and we've asked them why that is, and they're still working on that.
and part of the FEMA frame of reference is the damage inventory that their FEMA inspector did initially a year ago, when they went up on the site and they took measurements, took photos and things like that, and they ran their own calculations based upon that, and then the engineers went up and did their calculations, so they have a different set of calculations, and apparently there's some differences, and
Yeah.
they want to find out more about that, which is where we're at right now.
Yeah,
And we don't have a clear.
So why
path
couldn't
forward.
they why couldn't they, if FEMA says, no, this isn't the way we see it, why couldn't they submit a different plan?
They're not at that point yet.
right.
That they're not at a point to say that the original plan is not acceptable. They're trying to reconcile the difference in quantities and measurements.
So we may still get what we want, we just have to wait long enough.
Right, they say they pull it back as an A&E project, an architectural and engineering project. And then it's rewritten as that, but then it sort of starts the process again.
And by pulling it back to just an A&E project at this point, that may open up, I don't think they were clear about it, but it may open up the opportunity for the town to get reimbursed for that 145,000-ish expense.
I don't think, from my understanding, we would lose that. That's on us. I didn't see any way, unless we actually pursue the project, regardless of cost, that we would get that back, because it becomes a whole new thing.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
see, what I thought, I understood was that if we pull it back as an A&E only project right now, then that puts it in the queue for reimbursement now. That we could submit a request for reimbursement for 90% of that now, but that doesn't guarantee the outcome after that, is how I think I understood it, which is why it's really
Right.
helpful to have other people
No,
listening in on these things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know, because we haven't done the project, we've only engineered the project. The reimbursement is for the project being constructed, and we haven't done that. So I don't see the reimbursement happening for our 144 or 160, whatever.
That's what we have in it presently.
currently, yeah.
160 something, or
Yeah.
I don't have an exact
But if
figure.
it does go to construction, then
Right.
some aspect of
But we
that.
still have a bunch of questions for them that they need to answer in terms of the discrepancy, in terms of their pricing and DuBois and King's pricing, which is about, it seems like it's like $1 million difference. And so there's obviously something happening
Yeah.
with that.
And they also do strongly recommend that we proceed with engineering analysis to study the difference in damage since the July storm.
Right.
And it might
Of course
turn
they
out,
would.
well, yeah, I mean, just for, it's in the town's interest just to do it
So
for
could
the
we
town's
re-engineer
interest.
it all because of that?
No, you can't combine the projects.
Right.
So you can't combine a 23
Okay.
event with a 24 event.
They
The
tie
24
their
event
hands.
might affect the 23 event, but one of the questions they had is that with DuBois and King's engineered plan, does it cover all the issues that we might have discovered in 2024? Does that solve all the
No,
problems?
because
that-
do we have a separate slide in 2024?
It's longer.
Longer, right.
Yeah, but what we don't know is if their existing design kind of encapsulates that already, embraces it,
That's-
just
that's the
because of the
idea,
way, it,
yeah.
the scope of it, the depth and the length might capture that anyway, we just don't know. And so they recommended that we proceed with getting that information.
And part of it is too, is I can't remember when we asked DuBois and King to come up with their initial proposal, why we didn't ask for variations of it. I don't know if it was like they did some and then this is what they presented. I can't remember.
I thought you gave them that drawing that you did, Peter.
We did, and they said that the stone wouldn't hold unless it was 1.5 on 1. But then they go in the river and they build a straight wall with water running against it that's twice as high and it works there. So
Different engineers.
you know, and they said the ground underneath is stable, so.
Right.
And that's
I
why I
mean-
thought with the stable ground, could sheet pilings halfway up the bank work?
Sheet piling is still $1 million.
Mhm.
That was the
At
price
each-
that
at
you got.
each site. So you're still talking
Oh,
$2 million
Oh,
plus
okay.
to do the sheet pilings, you know, for both sites.
Yeah.
But our also concern, like, even though it's up to 90% reimbursement, which is great, even on a $2.5 million project, I mean, it's still, we're outlaying some money, but nowhere near what we thought we would have to do. But we still don't
Still a lot of
know,
money.
we still don't know if just fixing those 2 areas, that's part of that engineered design, is gonna be enough.
Right.
They could be fixed and we could still have issues. It's not a sort of catch-all that we know that would fix everything. It's like, we looked at these 2 areas and we can fix these areas, but then what happens to everything in between? So it
They're
needs
not gonna pay for anything in between.
no, I know, that's. the
Unless
thing.
it's part of what they call 4810, which is the July 2024.
Right, that begins a new.
Right, but there's nothing in between the 2 sites that would need to be fixed, that would dictate they need to be fixed.
Right.
Yeah, there's no.
I mean, do you feel with the DuBois and King plan that would alleviate the issues on that road?
I am real
Even
nervous
though-
about having a 10-foot drop right at the edge of the road.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, what was the number that Eric and I came up with was 200,000 and it would all been done a year ago.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have had any damage, well, I won't say we wouldn't have had any damage, but and now that they're talking lowering the road, in that one spot, that would probably make a considerable difference as well, but it adds cost.
Right, they're talking lowering it 3 feet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which isn't a big deal.
we would wanna decide if we, given the 90%, if we do wanna take that on as engineered, as it is, but I think we really need to find out if that's gonna do what we want it to do.
Right, if it's gonna fix these two sections,
Well, that's
in the
all,
middle,
that's all it's gonna do. I don't,
and you're not gonna tie them in,
No, I know, that's the thing.
and we already got $250,000 into it, even at 10%. Okay.
So to
Next
be
steps,
continued.
just wait for next steps.
Well, I think one of the questions on the table is, do we, at the previous meeting, the select board authorized additional engineering work, but we also had these questions, and so we
Right.
didn't pull the trigger on that. So the question is, do we still wait on asking the engineers to go out and even if it's a desktop analysis based upon the current,
Well, this would be for 2024. right?
exactly, yeah.
We were thinking about redoing 2023, but do we want to look at 2024? Because we haven't, has any engineering been done for 2024?
No.
We just reacted
no,
to
we
it.
won't have that till next January. Not this coming January, the January after.
Yeah.
Well, at the
It
very
is
least, they
so
can,
freaking frustrating.
yeah, so at the very least, they can take the calculations that the FEMA inspectors made, their report in November, with the photos and measurements and this and that, maybe do a desktop analysis to start, just to see how that compares with their plan. And if their plan requires any modification to capture additional areas or what, I don't know.
I mean, part of the worry is that we keep outlaying money on this. We're already 160 and we don't know if we're ever gonna get that back. And we can continue to do this because we sort of need to figure out how much has changed in a year because we've had other storms. But then, like, what's our point where at the top where we stop engineering and actually doing something? Yeah,
Or
that's the
close the
thing.
road,
Right, or close the road.
right,
And I know there's gonna be a,
yeah, it's an issue.
yeah,
Well, even if we close the road, we're out 150.
That's
Right,
correct.
160,000.
Right now.
Yeah,
So
And,
we're only, I mean, for another 100,000, we could go with the plan we have.
yeah, right.
which wouldn't change the elevation of the road.
That's not in the plan?
Oh, you
Yeah,
mean,
the new plan,
oh,
Valerie, they lower that.
oh, right, I
section
thought you
down
were
to
talking about, Peaker's suggestion with the riprap.
No, he's saying the plan we have, that would be another 100,000, that would be our 10%.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we have to have that available to us.
So we
So
want
does the
to,
engineering get counted towards the 10%?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whole amount.
Mhm.
So it's the total amount, okay.
and we might get some of this.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was 10% more,
No,
like, you need
it's,
to come
yeah,
up
the
with another
engineering
200,000.
is combined into the entire project, construction as well.
And the state shares in that 10%. It's not exactly 50-50. I think it's 7%, 3%. The town is 7%, state is 3% of that.
10.
Yeah, of the 10.
And those were our big questions for the last two meetings is, what happens if we don't go with this plan? And really, you lose all your engineering
Right.
costs. You pay them, the town pays.
And
Yeah,
related,
you pay them and then you're gonna have to pay for the fix because,
Right.
and
Yeah.
the fix is now probably 250, 300,000 the way we were gonna do it
Right.
before. So you're right where you would be if you
If
did
you
the
did
$2
the
million.
fix.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but that's only on the first
23
FEMA.
stuff, yeah.
The 24 stuff, they haven't
Right.
calculated what
right,
the
right, and
percentage
that's
is
at
gonna be.
75% so far.
Yeah.
And to resolve the questions right now that we're in of the quantity discrepancies, they've asked me to answer these, well, I don't even know what the questions are yet. I've asked them to provide, if they can, to let us know what the questions and issues are in advance, which I have no capacity to answer, and that we'd have to engage the engineer anyway to address those questions, whatever they are. And so
So
that
shouldn't
would,
that be on the state or on 240
no, well, I don't know, but it's somewhat.
Well, questions
to
are
the
being
extent-
asked of us and then we need to provide the answers.
And we can't, so it has to be the engineer. So where I'm going with that is that even for just the original storm, we still
The
need
quantities
to,
or-
we still need to engage their services to help us get through these questions.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Do we have some kind of a idea of what this extra engineering is gonna cost us?
Nope.
It's like
Gonna
giving,
cost us,
it's like giving
gonna
somebody a
cost us-
blank check, you know?
gonna cost us 40,000.
Like, you don't have a
to find
choice.
out what the answers, what the engineering is gonna
It
cost.
shouldn't be that big a deal. The yardage is easily figured. I don't know if I don't know if I still have my notes, but I would have the yardage if I did.
Mhm. We just need to know what their questions are.
So what do
We
we
have a
want,
new person on the team.
Oh, yeah,
what do we wanna,
again,
what do we wanna do? We wanna try to get some more answers for the next meeting, get some, turn the engineers loose to try to wrap this up before we make a decision where we're gonna go or what?
Well, I think we have to know what
the additional work is.
I think, yeah,
well,
I think
yeah,
we
okay.
need to know the additional work and we need to know what the discrepancy is in the quantity.
Right.
I think that's the first thing, but I don't know if we have enough information. Well, I don't know. I was gonna say to engage the engineers to look at 2024. I guess I want more information from FEMA about that.
well, we have their inspection report,
Right.
and which I would recommend, my suggestion is to send off that inspection report to the engineer and see what.
How much of this is covered in your initial plan?
Well, it might be part of their original,
Well, it could be.
Basket, do you have the measurements
yeah,
from the engineer from the top
yeah,
slope?
let me show you.
Because if I remember right, when they went up and measured that and everything, that incorporated most of the second slide. That happened, or I should say, this year's event, whatever you wanna call it.
2024.
So you're
Yeah.
talking about the 2023's engineered supports.
Yeah, because the
What's
whole
happening?
road was sloughing off and was pitching that way
Yeah.
anyways.
Okay,
So they incorporated most of that in 23, I think. So if they did, and we can get reimbursed for that for 24, we could cut a cost, so to speak.
Yeah.
So this is the top of the thing, this is their inspection report. Can you scroll down a little bit, took all these measurements, which means something to
That's the
somebody.
FEMA stuff, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, but that was more than that, is what the engineer did for length. Or did they
48
just
feet
run off on
long,
FEMA?
6 foot wide.
right, so
12.
those measurements might well be within the existing design.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's some illustrations here. Let me scroll down, but I just want to show you what's in this inspection report that might be useful to the engineers to be able to just do some desktop analysis. And the engineers the FEMA people only looked at this, the top slide. They didn't look at the bottom one at all. And by bottom, I don't mean this one at Lincoln, on
Right,
Lincoln
you
Road,
mean the
but
one farther
the lower,
west.
right, the lower one. So they did all this is at the bottom of the hill, took all these measurements and, so there's that.
So what do they got for measurements there? Do they have numbers?
Sure, they have
They have the
GPS
GPS
coordinates,
coordinates.
yeah. So a lot of that is encompassed in the original design, we know that. What we don't know is down the width so much between the two sites, the upper and the lower. Whoops, so that's the end of their illustrations. And then there's the location map, so it just shows what they were looking at, whereas the other site is down here. So what the question is, did anything happen in between? And there's, again, another view of their data. So that's what they were talking about, site 1 and site 2. Not what we consider site 1 and site 2.
Oh, it's all the same, that's all the
Yes,
same site.
It
all
is,
the way down
to
over-
us, it's the same site. They were just looking at it from the top and the bottom.
So they didn't,
They didn't look at
they
the
didn't
other-
look
they-
at the other
the lower.
side.
They didn't, well, partly,
For this year's event, they only looked at the top. because-
right,
Oh, okay, there was no more damage at the
Right, there was
bottom.
no more
Okay,
damage
gotcha.
on the other side.
that we know of.
Well.
It did come down a
didn't-
little bit,
It didn't show much from the
Yeah.
pavement settling.
Right.
as anything significant.
yeah. So,
So that's beyond the blocks, which we fixed before. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And I think they incorporated in the original design, I think they incorporated part of that
Most of that, yeah.
with the original design.
so it makes sense to have you and Eric look at the original design and just see
How far?
Yeah,
Yeah, if there were measurements on the original design
Sure.
that tell us how long.
then you'd know.
And we
what-
just gotta
what
pull a
was-
tape down it and we can see how
Well, that
much,
was covered.
how much they're missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would give us a little bit of movement in terms of like, it seems like the original design would cover that. FEMA's asked that question. So it seems like if that's the case, maybe we could move forward on that.
And I do think, from what I've heard, what I think I understood of what I heard, is that the blocks at the bottom could be eligible for reimbursement under 4810, which is the July 2024 storm, as preventative emergency measure. Just like the upper blocks were for the year ago.
For the
So
23
these might qualify as that too. Maybe,
Me.
yeah,
I mean, I'm
I
less,
love
I'm less worried about that just because the cost of that is so
Yeah.
low compared to
yeah.
the engineering cost we.
Yeah, but any money we can get back, we'll
No, I
take it.
Yeah, we got all, we got
Yeah.
those blocks there. He definitely could do another course up on
Upper notch.
Upper Notch.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I
I
thought,
think that's pretty much settled out because.
Is it?
Yeah,
you know,
so-
if we did something like a wall that they did at the upper notch down below a ways, and then go up halfway and start another wall. And
Well, that's gonna be able to come out once the upper one's done.
Mm-hmm,
So he'll have all those blocks for the next project.
right.
Okay.
Well, there's
so
quite
we're
a few.
gonna,
There's
we're gonna
those and
hold
those
this,
up
then
above.
we're gonna,
Yeah.
Let's decide.
let's
What we're
decide,
doing.
yeah. We want more information. Is that
So
what we're
shall I
looking at?
send the report to the engineer and ask him to look at it,
Yeah.
or still wait?
Yes, I think so.
I think
That's-
Send
that's what-
send it to the engineer, ask him to look at it and see
Yeah.
how
Okay,
how much of it is out of the original scope of their project.
yeah, okay. That's a
Yeah.
good place to start.
Right, I think
Okay.
that would be good so far. Just get that.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, number 7, presentation of proposed consolidation and other adjustments to the Bristol accounting structure for Nemrick and Chris Brother.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mike.
Mike. Thank you very much for staying. I got 30 minutes down here and then we're not gonna take
We
that.
spend 10, I'm gonna be upset.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
That's all right.
I'm tired, I'm hungry, and I'm sort of grumpy.
Well, imagine us
So
then.
what's different? So
Are you
what's
guys
changed?
all set with me? Do I have anything on the rest on the agenda?
I don't think so.
No, you're good.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
Good
in
night,
about
Eric.
1 o'clock, so I'm supposed to start.
You're not gonna just go over and sleep in your chair?
Eric, remember I told you, I got a couch over home, you can always.
Give me another half an hour worth of sleep.
Anytime, just call me anytime.
Yeah.
Sleep on the back couch or the front couch, all heated, Eric.
Stop talking and go to the bathroom,
Just, you know,
because your 10 minutes are running, Chris.
Yeah.
I was ready to leave a half an hour ago, so.
I was ready to leave at 6 o'clock before
Do you
you
have
got
something-
here.
Do you have something to screen share with us? Oh, that's good.
I'm looking for
Yeah,
it.
maybe we can put that up there and get
No, it's.
started.
Is this what
Is
we
this
did
good
today?
stuff or is this bad stuff?
It's all good stuff.
And this is what you guys did today?
No, that's what we did last week.
Okay.
Yeah,
But this is the changing of the accounts?
Yeah, we pulled the trigger
Because all
last
the
week.
bills that people had already coded were in the old
Yeah,
numbers.
so.
So now you
I
had to
put all the new
recode them.
numbers on.
And you'll figure those out soon.
We essentially just
Yeah,
have
I've
one
already
account,
seen it. Yeah.
and it's just a big barrel outside, and we just throw.
Throw
money
everything
in.
in.
One of the biggest things, I mean, we wait for Joel to get here, but one of the biggest things you're gonna see is, so I ran a budget status report. That's what this is. This one has all the accounts. I've read the same one.
24 pages.
That actually eliminates all the $0 ones.
Mhm.
And it's 18 pages.
Oh, so that you ran a different one.
It's the exact same one. I just ran it and suppressed the funds
Okay.
with zeros, which is all the stuff at the tail end, all the
Okay.
funds we haven't used in years.
Yeah.
It eliminates a few of these, like right here where you see the zeros
Tax
across the
other
board for,
taxes.
Right.
yeah.
Fish and wildlife fees.
So any of that stuff that was removed, now again, we brought it down to 18 pages. What that means is when you look at this is actually becoming a manageable, usable document. That I would hope that going forward between the department heads and yourselves, you would actually have a realistic view of what we've got going on in our community. Some of the things we combined, here's on your revenue side, didn't really make a lot of changes on the revenue side. There's a few minor things, but when we get down to the expense side, which would be down in the next page or two, is where we start really seeing where we tightened up the ship tremendously.
Now, I just want to point out, let's see, this is period 6, we're into December, so we're about 50%, not quite 50% of the way through the budget. So when you see these percentages, be thinking about that in terms of where we're at.
Right.
And that's also why the property taxes aren't fully.
Right, because you only got half the
Right,
payments.
okay.
Well, some people paid all of it, right?
Yeah, we did about
And some people
60%.
don't pay it all.
Yeah, as you can see, we get about 67% on the front end.
There's your problem right there.
Yeah, I'm chasing those down and becoming more and more fun.
Oh, no, I've been sitting.
Okay.
So, like I said, here, you're not seeing a lot of different, I mean, the numbers are what they are. We can go through those bigger level. These are your revenue streams.
So
Is this what's on the website right now, you know, under our documents for, because I saw the budget
No,
stats
that's an
report,
old
that's
one.
the old one? Okay.
Yeah, so what's gonna happen is in a week, when we close the books again, will be the end of the month reports that we normally send out. That Sharon usually parses down tremendously and removes a lot of stuff. This one, we really shouldn't have to. I think it's important that you all have a full picture of what's going on. There are some of these, like these negative numbers, where the dog license one's negative because we don't have dog licenses yet. And I don't know why they're negative.
Because we have to buy the supplies in the fall.
Beforehand.
before we start the
So, and
licensing.
same with like the delinquent tax payments is a negative, which is an odd one, but that's okay. But some of the bigger changes you're gonna see is as we've regrouped a lot of the expense stuff, eliminated.
So scroll down to the expenses, is
yes,
that what you're
please.
asking Val to do?
Here's your revenue for the year.
So is this total? No, that's recycling,
That's your revenue,
That's
total
total
revenue.
revenue. Yeah, you
Stop.
had it, you were
Stop,
there.
Valerie.
3.2
Yeah,
and 2.4.
so that's your general fund as your top, and then you've got your DPW dollars in there as well.
So as I mentioned, 50%, be thinking 50%, so at this point in time, we're more than 70%. We've collected more than 70% of our projected revenues, if I'm understanding that correctly.
That is correct.
Okay.
So here's one of the first things you're gonna see different. So we broke out salaries, as we mentioned before, out of each of the different departments. It's a line item by itself. It's one of your biggest expenses. There are two places where they still are in their own, which is DPW and PD.
Because they have to be.
Yeah, we could move them for semantics point, but in the end, it's not a good, clear budgeting tool.
Wait, which ones, Chris?
DPW and police, when you look at their departments, they will actually have their own line items for
Okay.
salaries. And again, with the restructuring of the numbering scheme, if we wanted to know everything that was associated with the listers across the board, there is a way to pull out the report based on the way we restructured all those numbers there. So there's references throughout the document. We could report just on the 1010 or the 10.11 and get information.
So
from there.
Chris, 2 lines down from that blue line she just put there, grant administrator's salary.
Mhm.
That's, we're paying from ARPA funds.
Nope. You used up your 1 year of ARPA funds on that. Right now, you're paying it out of the salary line.
But we did budget. There was a budget figure.
That's why I
It-
asked
it
the
was-
question.
It was small, but there was like $15,000.
But we
in-
didn't have numbering for it yet, so that's
Yeah.
why it's not in there.
Okay.
And same with the
It could
community
be put
resource
in now,
specialist.
but originally we didn't have any numbers and we were waiting for them to tell us where we should put.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
So
still a
we-
work in progress.
There's a handful of
There's
stuff.
some little bits of here and
So a
there
number
that
of,
we
where those
had.
2 zeros are, grant
There will be a
administrator,
number.
there will be a number. in there.
Yeah.
Because we did also budget for the community resource
Right.
specialist.
So, yeah,
Cause somebody's gonna ask that, you're halfway through your year and we've already spent 100%, so is that gonna be
Yeah,
200%
I
over?
think at the time, last year, I think we estimated 85% would be the community resource special, or maybe it was the other way, 50%. And 85% of the grant writer was in the budget this time, because the ARPA funds were gonna run out. I forgot.
so again, I will send this out. The best way, instead of sitting here going line by line tonight, which we could do, we
No.
could read off 2 hours if you want.
No.
But just some examples, if we want to just, stop here, this is a great spot here. So the admin offices, here's when you'll see where we tied things up. Other than supplies, we need to break out more, but those are all the supplies for this building. We used to break out paper or supplies for listers, we break out. None of that anymore. Anyone who's we broke them out in geographical.
You work in a building,
locations.
it's all in one spot.
Because we don't know how much toilet paper the listers use. We don't really care. I keep beating up at the listers because they just happen to be in my mind.
Well, we didn't have them being charged.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that kind of silliness is what, or not silliness, that it was so meticulous, and it doesn't really help you. So hopefully what'll happen now is we can sit down with the next step, as Sharon said earlier, is we'll sit down with the different, department heads and start figuring out next year's budgets with them based on what they're able to see here. Like I said, I'll send this out tomorrow. And
You're on the road tomorrow.
How's the,
I don't have to, I have it.
He has
in my email.
waves.
I have it in my email,
has
so I can
waves.
send it.
Oh, you got a question again?
I was gonna say, so with the budgeting, are you using the budgeting module?
Yeah, it's the piece of the GL, yeah, the budgeting tool that the GL has, I think is what we was.
And all
makes the most-
past information will be shown in the new categories. They've already changed in the system.
How many years can we go back?
Indefinitely, you could
Oh, it's
run,
all there?
you could run
I
this.
think there was talk about, it might be 3 years when Darlene was talking about that, but it seems like.
So, well, the budgeting tools is 2 years. If you want reporting,
Okay.
I can report
go
back
back
from
further.
the day
Okay.
one and give you the same report
Yeah.
from 15 years ago. And what it'll do is where it used to be split out, and now it would show you what those numbers are today, using this format. So it's not, you're able to compare apples to apples as far as you need to.
It'd be really nice to be able to see across a couple of years just to see what the trends are.
And that's exactly
Yeah.
that's what we try to do, is a 3-year.
So fire department, if you recall, is that the consolidated fire department budget? That's from a whole page to,
Yeah, and I was working with Brett pretty close, so it's both, all those lines are fire. With the one thing that's not in there, which is up above, which is salaries.
Personnel, yeah.
But this is, yeah, we can,
oh, I see, so the whole.
that's everything right there,
Oh,
that
so
should
it's
be,
still- So
That's
that's
it.
still, oh, fire, okay.
but it used to be 2 pages.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty long.
again, we worked pretty close with Brett on this one. He felt very happy with, actually, he wanted to know if we could condense more, and, we said no.
So there's total fire department is right there.
Yeah.
Minus salaries, yeah.
Yeah, and again, the nice part is being able to we can report those salaries out as a report, so if you wanted to know what is the cost of our fire department today, that
Right,
report can be
okay.
generated at any given time.
Okay.
And then rec
Um,
department,
And Rex, it's
Needs
all,
a little work.
yeah,
but-
we got a little more tweaking because Rec has so many different pieces, parts, because they have general rec, they have the teen center, which falls on, they have the parks that fall under them, they have the pottery studio, all different things.
Bristol Youth Sports.
And Bristol Youth Sports and 5-Town Riders. So over the years, it has splintered out, and maybe in time you can reel those back in a better way. But at this point in time, we kept those all individual. There are some things that we condensed down tremendously.
How come those numbers are small?
Which ones?
Well, it's $3,400 and $2,300.
Teen center.
It's just a teen center.
It's just the teen center.
It says total teen center expense.
Yeah, that is because remember, most of their
You'll
expenses.
see the salaries aren't in there.
Well, even if you.
These are just water and things like that,
Yeah.
and food.
Well,
and-
no, you see them right there.
It's this, I think it's just this.
That's it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it.
It's not, there's not a total for.
No, so there's
No, it's still
a
missing
couple
a
headers
lot.
missing that we're
Yeah.
working on.
All right.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I was putting those numbers, yeah.
Yeah, you were right, Peter.
Yeah, I was gonna say the $3,400 off the teen center, because again, we're working on changing up some of the reporting. These grants aren't counted in your expenses right now. It's cleanly, because a lot of times the grants, the expenses were being posted directly against the revenue. And you should have one-to-one lines, so that if you look at your grants that were coming into the teen center, a lot of them were listed in the town report just as grants. They weren't really truly recorded out here well. So those are the biggies. Like I said, we'll send these out. Nemrick spent a lot of time between Darlene and Chip going through what we had, what other communities do. We met with the auditors. Ron agreed with most, we had one little piece where he didn't agree. And that was more of a look and feel, wasn't it, Sharon? He wasn't opposed to it, like,
No, he wasn't.
I mean, he
opposed to
said
it,
at the end of the day, it all is correct and works. He just preferred to see it in another format, and after chatting with Chip and Darlene afterwards, they're like, it is your budget. And I'm like, okay. Like I said, it changes it was more of a numbering thing too. It had nothing to do with where things were. It was odd. But for the most part, Ron really liked, he felt condensing down, what we had was a very,
So I just seen one number there that says cemetery fund. I thought we started a cemetery fund.
Yeah,
It says 0.
and we spent out of it though, right? We spent 10,000.
We spent 10,000 when we did the trees.
Oh, okay.
Right, but there should
Okay.
be a 10,000 there, there should be a.
Yeah, it should be.
Well, I haven't done the appropriations
yet.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay,
for the.
for
reserve
last
fund.
year's March 24's town meeting. you haven't-
2024 meeting,
You
yeah.
haven't put those in here.
The appropriations that go outside are in the warrant
Work
tonight,
today, yes.
but we haven't actually moved, transferred the money for the reserve funds yet.
Although, in the far column, that should be the budgeted figure, what was expected versus what was actually spent.
Well, I don't know if it had a
Budget
budget
versus
number.
Wasn't it 10,000?
I don't know that I started.
I wouldn't
going
answer,
through-
I wouldn't
think
dare
the
answer that without
cemetery
looking.
one either got missed having a budget number in there because I didn't find it when I was looking.
It might have been something where we started it one year and then we didn't.
You didn't
continue
put
to
We
any
put
didn't
money into
continue
it.
to put money
Yeah.
into it, yeah.
Well, we started it and then we moved, unassigned funds.
And that's the other
Yeah.
piece that's probably missing out of some of this is, I don't believe these unassigned funds have ever been moved.
Mhm.
Or whether we actually had them to move
Yeah.
them, so that's
We
another
can
thing.
check the warnings from last time.
Well, that's what I've been doing in my spreadsheet,
Yeah,
because there are some where we have said, if we have unassigned funds, this is what we're gonna
Right.
move, but I don't know that.
We have.
Seeing the
Outside.
actual transactions actually occurred inside of the software, a lot of them were.
So are we at a point now where we know what our unassigned balance is gonna be?
Not for 23 and 24. That's what Ron is.
Yeah, we gotta wait for the auditors.
We
finish
have
their
to,
tabs.
we're gonna have to nudge them, because we haven't heard from them.
I mean, can they get us those numbers in the next?
At least
week?
23.
No. In the next week? No, we probably won't see them until after the holidays, if you want my honest opinion.
I think their plan was January sometime.
Well,
Okay.
originally, he was gonna be here last week.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
we haven't
so-
heard
so-
anything from
We
them.
could potentially have them as we work on the budget,
Yes.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
that's what I'm
which we've
thinking.
never had before. I mean, we've had
What we
The-
guessed.
we've
Yeah,
had
well,
the
it really
previous
does-
years, not last year's, we've had the previous years of that, prior to that.
As long as we have them, we'll put placeholders, and as long as we have them before we gotta do the warning, we'll be fine.
Right.
And that's February 1st, last week of
But
January.
the idea also too is that we shouldn't,
Have that much undesignated fund balance at the end of the year.
well, no, I was gonna say, we rely on the auditors to get that number, but in theory,
We should be able to calculate.
that's right.
Right.
We should be able to pull it up
For the
immediately
budgeted
and know
versus that
exactly,
actual, do the math.
because everything should be spent, and if it's whatever's not spent.
Mhm.
That's an undesignated,
And it's
unaudited,
cumulative.
unaudited,
Yeah, right, so
undesignated,
how does that,
Unassigned.
unassigned.
Yeah.
it's
But
not
unaudit-
going into an unassigned line, how do you,
No,
what does it do? I wonder what it does to calculate that, then.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
They usually tell us what it is, but as Valerie has said before, even though it's in the warning, if we don't have it, it doesn't happen.
Right.
And I don't know that anybody has ever looked to see
Right.
whether that money is there or not.
I mean,
Of course, the last one we had was
yeah,
22,
and
so,
we got some,
Right.
and we still have some funds we have to jockey around,
and if you don't have
we had to
accurate
move around,
numbers.
cover bills for tax time, like we had to move of our own money within our own accounts. Like $300,000 out of the, what we call the grant fund or the reserve fund, into the general fund to pay bills.
Right.
So we have to pay that money or pay ourselves back our own money for, so on paper, it looks like we have that money at the moment.
So is this the bottom line right here?
I'd
Total
have to look.
expenditures,
That would be,
revenues, no, that's different. So this is getting into landfill. So, general,
it should be the end of your general fund right there.
yeah,
So
total expenditures of the general fund.
Right.
the budgeted expenditures was 3,367,000. And we
So
spent so far to date, 1,275,000.
Less
Yeah, but
than
they said that
50%.
some of that is not missing, some of the numbers are missing for the budgeted funds too. so.
Yeah, like we have none of the allocations, correct, we have not made any of the internal
Not the reserve funds.
reserve funds, like the fire, all the, whatever that big chunk of cash is.
I
that
have
needs to
the
be-
list of the ones that need to be done. We have to do journal entries. for
Yeah.
those.
So those all have to be added to that. It feels like you're at about 50% ballpark in my mind. So you're right on,
2 weeks before the.
yeah, you're about on
Year,
par.
so
I mean, you're on task at this point. Don't spend any extra anytime soon.
Shut those lights off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, every time I look at the bank account, I'm like, hopefully keep making payroll. We're not in desperation mode, but it's one of those long term. It's like knowing that we've got till April that we get more cash, making sure that we have the cash flow to get there.
And we have some hefty reimbursements in the wings also, end of the month.
But it's also something to be aware of. Well, since most of the grants that we apply for are reimbursement. And so it's like you have to have that money, and when you don't, that's, I think, where we run into issues.
Well, we just have to
Liquidity
keep on
issue.
it to make sure that that timely submission is happening.
I have to look closer to see if it's all done. I
But
mean, look at
that's
the
Frida's.
No, the water.
It's a combination, it's a joint effort.
Well, and also.
Valerie, do you have the
state
water
is
department up there?
repaying us.
I mean, the last time Frida, who's the one from next?
Jill, Darlene.
Darlene was here, said that we were $129,000 in debt in the water department. I realized we hadn't even done a reading yet from July 1 to September.
Yeah, well,
She was here
that is
after.
the big issue. So your revenue right now for water,
116.
We've
Yeah.
only done one water reading.
yeah, we have another water read. Hopefully it'll be done in this quarter. They're working on it as we speak.
I think she
So
was hoping to have
30%
it done
maybe.
tomorrow.
Other than the gun wasn't charged today, so she didn't get anything done today.
So is it
Our
fair to say
expenses
that?
are over what our income is.
So
Yeah,
the-
right now it looks like,
We're in the
quick
hole.
look, that you're in the hole about 50 grand in the water. Yeah.
That's
That's
$50,409
Bill,
for
it's
eight.
around 80,000, I
They don't
think.
know.
Right.
Okay.
So the next round of water bills, we should bring in about $80,000 and we'll be back on par.
And that's the new bill,
Yeah,
the new amount, right?
That's
Any
built,
feedback from clients?
we haven't been out yet.
and we don't yet.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true.
So,
I
but
mean, I've done a
Two-
couple out of cycle ones and nobody's complained,
so
so,
the second reading will go out by the end of the month, that we hope, right?
yes, that's the plan.
And then that will be halfway through we've got 2 of the 4 readings done,
Mhm.
Right.
so.
Yeah, I think, I'm not the water we're on track with at this point.
Here's police revenues. And then. Let's see, is that police? Let's see, expenditures, so they're about on par.
Yeah, they're about 70 grand short.
70
at the
grand
moment.
short.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
every
one of
month
that,
when I close the books, there are transfers that I
Yeah.
can make from the general fund,
and
because we do it monthly instead of a
Yeah.
yearly one.
And the other piece too is like, Armin's salary is, that cops
Yeah.
grant is still in flux. We're fighting
Yeah.
with DOJ and.
What's that?
That's money that we got a grant.
Yeah, I know what it's, I know what it stands
It
for.
was the cops grant to pay for your 4th officer.
Right, they don't think now we.
Oh, no, we've been awarded it. We just can't get it out because there's like 3 different agencies you have to report to, and a lot of that reporting had never been done. And so half the accounts have been suspended, so getting those out of suspension is where we're finally at now. I've got all the accounts back open. And now we just have to figure out exactly what reports and what order we have to do that.
And it doesn't help that usually the last week of the month, they suspend it so they can do their paperwork.
Yeah,
So you can't get any money down anyways.
yeah, it's classic. So it's been a fun journey with the feds.
Does that also does this have in there the grant, ARPA funds for
Community
the
resource.
community resource? Or is that not in here yet?
Would that be go back up to
That
the
was
general?
blank.
Yeah, that was blank.
No,
That was up
Yeah,
to the
that
general
was a
because it's
general
not
fund, no, it
in
wasn't
police.
police department.
It's police. fund.
No, it wasn't.
No, it's not.
No,
No,
she's funded out of the general
She's
fund.
funded out of general.
Yeah.
She's a standalone. she's a-
Remember the grant
That's right.
administrative
But it's-
line,
yeah,
they
it's
were right
in
next
the
to each other.
employee.
Yeah.
Town employee, right, that's
Yeah,
right.
she's right below that.
Mhm.
listing.
And this is sewer, this begins sewer. Oops, right there. Right here. And that goes over this way, so these are the revenues for sewer.
And again, we don't have the second
Versus-
quarter read yet, so that will,
That'll
once
go
again, be a
out
negative as
with the
well,
water.
which should pull itself back in line after the next round of bills go out. And then after this, we start running into all those one-off random funds that, that's where this, after, from here down is where a lot of the stuff needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah,
We should have, I think we were waiting on the auditors, wasn't that Ron's suggestion? That we
No,
don't
we
touch
need-
any of these until after the
Just the
audit?
ones that either owe money or money need to be moved.
Right, the $0
They need to
ones we
know
can
what it
inactivate.
was, so that they can decide
Right,
where we're gonna pay it out of.
so originally. we
Cause there's a
didn't want-
couple big ones.
Right, originally we'd wanted to ask you guys to either, to close out all those that were inactive, but there was monies either owed or extra in. But the auditors have requested that we not do that until.
We did, yeah, until the select board determines where we're gonna pay some of this stuff out of.
Yeah, so we've got a ways to go with those, so, but there's not a,
There's not a ton of them.
no, but there's definitely capital there to deal with.
Okay,
So that's everything.
so
for
we
now.
don't need a vote for this, you just.
No,
give
it's
us
just a
a-
summary, we'll, like I
All right,
said,
thank you.
I'll email this out, get it to you guys. And
Okay.
if you have questions, just shoot me an email, stop by, whatever, I'm always available.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank
Except for
you,
tomorrow.
Thank you.
thank you, Sharon.
Consider a
Thank
contractual
you.
agreement, with soon to be former town administrator for support or other assistance as needed. So Valerie's got a lot of projects she's handing off, and some of it she's gonna still be, we're gonna need to support. I think Peter brought this up last meeting, and I agree with it 100%. So, do we, Ian, is that something that you will work with her to come up with a dollar number?
well, I have a.
She's already got it.
Okay, you
contract
do.
here.
$700 an hour, invoice monthly, travel time billed at half rate. And then she's got a place for other terms and conditions.
Let's see if there are any. Let's see. Because as I mentioned that, let's see, the rate reflects the lowest going rate for professional consultants and new non-employee expenses involved.
Yeah, I'd say we approve this, and then when we meet on Monday, talk about maybe particulars of the projects, like figure that out.
And what project she's working. on,
Right,
So we know.
Yeah.
Friday's her last day.
I know,
So you said meet on Monday, us, you mean us?
Yes.
we're meeting,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were talking about meeting with Val,
No,
I'm
no,
like, she's
no.
not gonna be here.
No,
Okay.
no,
Because
Gotcha.
you might find you have internal capacity to handle some things,
Mhm.
or to wait and see if the new person
right,
can pick something up,
Right.
or.
Right.
I,
But I think-
I don't want to get in the way of
yeah, no,
anything.
this is great.
Yeah.
This is incredibly generous. I know you're trying to get out of here, but then you can't, that's the thing. But no, I think it's fine, I think it's great.
Yeah, but now she has the option of saying no.
No.
Or not for another 2 weeks, or whatever.
But she's also way too nice, so she'll, that's the thing.
Okay, so
I'll make a motion, we approve the proposed agreement.
Second.
there's a motion, a second, any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay.
Thank you.
Considering appointing a new Bristol representative to serve as the alternate on the Adams County Solid Waste Management District Board of Supervisors to complete the term through April 10th, 2025.
And as I mentioned in my notes, that you have a few options. You can either leave the seat vacant until the new administrator is installed and appoint someone in the interim, because the term runs from April to April. Or select an entirely different member of the community to serve on the solid waste district, because Joel is the primary right now, and the seat I occupy is the alternate. Or the other person would occupy.
I would say we just hold off.
Leave
until-
it, yeah.
Okay.
vacant for
Because
now.
I just got a notice today, the supervisory board meeting is canceled for the month of December.
Right, yeah.
No business, so
Right.
they probably won't have one in January, so next one won't be till February. And we can decide then.
All right, and
Okay.
similar to the
Trash
next
is my
one.
life.
Trash is my life.
Same thing for Economic Development Corp.
Yeah, we could do that.
Although their term goes from January to December. So, or you can leave it blank.
And is that you're the one who's doing it
Yes.
now?
Yeah. It's been helpful, but, yeah. It's not urgent or pressing, really. And they're going through a lot of transition too,
Yeah.
and their director is.
Fred's getting
retiring.
done.
Yeah.
It's done the end of the month, right?
June, I think.
June.
Yeah. Okay.
I said I'd see that vacant for now.
All right.
Okay.
Review the meeting minutes for November 4th, 18th, and December 2nd. Went out this afternoon. Valerie sent them out.
I'm gonna say next time.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't
At
looked
least
at
they're
any
giving
of
them
them
a
unless
chance
somebody
to
else
look.
has.
At least they're moving,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Accounts, authorized accounts payable warrant went around and some other
Yeah.
stuff.
And no liquor.
292,056,07.
And there's no tobacco or liquor. There's no tobacco. Okay. What was that again?
292,056.07.
Okay. Select board roundtable. Speaker, why don't we start with you?
I am good.
Jessica?
Yeah,
Fine.
anything,
Michelle?
I just
What-
wanted to
what-
point out the Addison Independent article about the teen hub.
Yes, that was
That was
amazing.
nice.
Yeah.
Mhm. The
Michelle?
only thing I had, I brought it to Sharon, which was the basketball hoop on Church Street that's still sitting right next to the road.
Okay, Ian?
Nope.
What?
Just closes his laptop, he's like, I'm done.
You asked us last meeting to take a peek at the library sidewalk.
Oh,
A couple of us, I did look at that. I honestly don't think it's a big deal to turn the tractor and go down there 100 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, and then I
How do we officially request that?
I don't know if Peter looked at it yet.
Would
Yeah,
that be what?
I looked at it. I don't know where the snow's gonna go back out into the parking spot. I don't know how we deal with that, whereas if it was shoveled, it wouldn't.
No, you're right.
But, yeah, I mean,
Was it Bunjo used to
Yeah.
say, the man who moves the snow last wins?
yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know
maybe
what,
just try it and just see.
yeah, I'm nervous about what we're gonna gain. The next thing we're gonna have is the pile of snow where the,
Somewhere.
I mean, we do the same thing on Firehouse Drive, let sidewalks run along the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That the what?
Firehouse Drive.
Yeah.
What'd you say though? You let the sidewalk run all over the road?
right on
Runs
the
right
side.
runs right alongside the road.
So it's-
I mean,
if
that's
you
where
plow the
when-
snow on the sidewalk, it pushes it into the road.
That's
The road
where
gets
when
plowed.
we
Yeah,
get a new sidewalk plow where we can
We can
angle
angle,
blade,
yeah.
then we'll be.
one day.
And
Yeah.
then the only way this would work is if they're running the snow blower and they blow it over the cars into the.
Oh, gosh.
So usually they blow it right in
How
front
about
of
just blow it
I think we
on the
just- I think we
cars?
just try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see what the season's like.
Okay.
It may be a moot point if we get.
them. Right.
Yeah, if it's just rain all.
And then, here again, I'd like to say to the department head, should we thought about giving them a number to, not to exceed number of budget increase?
I don't,
I think they're all pretty good about it.
Okay. We haven't
I mean-
seen a budget yet, so we
Right.
don't know.
I mean, last year, the rec department was the biggest jump.
Yeah.
Hopefully that won't be the same this year.
But hopefully also we can run more reports and get more information.
we should have, last year, we didn't, our numbers were all messed up. So hopefully,
Mm.
I mean, we were guessing on a lot of stuff. but-
Okay, then
Don't tell me that, I
Valerie,
don't
you're up,
wanna hear
town administrator's
Oh,
report.
it was terrible.
You got anything more besides your
No,
great community
I,
report?
No, I put some thoughts into my report, just thanking everybody and just acknowledging what an amazing collection of volunteers, talented volunteers, and just and people that participate, citizens that participate and are engaged. And I've worked in a lot of communities and different sizes, but Bristol definitely stands out as a community where the citizens really care about each other. You guys put in so much time and effort for the whole community, and it's noticed, and I certainly appreciate it, and it is successful. You have accomplished a lot
Well, look,
by working together.
Well, that's
And it's just
thanks
been-
to you.
and the volunteers and the staff, I mean, it's a huge lift, and everybody plays their part, and it shows, and it's great.
well, Thursday I was listening to, I listened when I, in the truck that time, Bill Sayers' show, and then a WDEV.
Mm.
And the show before that, they talked about, they had a state person about communities who've really walking and more stuff, and they mentioned Waterbury and Bristol. Really has shined.
Two places she's worked.
So I listened, I turned the volume a little bit up there, I turned the volume up a little bit, and said, no, that's good. And because Bill says, well, you're right on one of them, I work in Waterbury at WDV, and once from 11 to 12, he has a
Wow.
show, and he says, and I live on the West Street in Bristol, so I can get for that. So, anything else, any correspondence reports or received?
I want to draw attention to some of the other business stuff. Let's see, a letter from Ron LaRose. I want to draw attention to that. He's expressing concerns about the village sidewalks, as I put it. And,
Page 7.
yes, and, I am anticipating that, in the coming weeks and months, that is something that the planning commission and AZ will be able to turn some attention to, because I know AZ is very interested in being involved in sidewalk projects. And I put some links in the tier report to the inventory that was done by the regional planning commission, so that we don't lose track of that, and try to come up with a plan. And actually, there is a plan, but checking on it and update it and use it to schedule these annual, I think Bristol is in a better position to stay on track with the annual and yearly sidewalk projects. It was tough for a while, but I think you're on track to be able to do it, so.
Well, I knew the letter was coming from him, because they want to replace, they got the notice that they got a galvanized line in their business down here on West Street. And they were told that they also got to replace the sidewalk, because their curb stops between the road and the sidewalk. And my brother-in-law Reg said to me yesterday, he got the same letter, and he's got to release his, and he goes, so who pays for that piece of sidewalk? And I go, you guys have to. And they both were sitting there at the family thing going, wait a minute, we're gonna do the water line, and then he goes, I think I'll just wait 7 years and let the next person, Reggie says, I'll let the next person own this house, replace it. So that's where their concerns was. Why should they have to pay for the sidewalk when if it's all torn, it's all bad anyway? I mean, down there, it's really bad.
Are you talking West Street?
Yeah, West Street. Regis isn't bad.
Oh.
I says, you don't have to go with the person who sent you the letter. You can go with your own private, but they have to be on site to see it, and you can pull it if you can try pulling it.
Well, one of the projects that AZ is expecting to help get off the ground is the scoping study for this West Street sidewalk, scoping study. So.
And I told them both, I said, we had kicked around the idea of, as we go on down that street, put a new 8-inch main in, or 6-inch main, that we pull these galvanized, and we bill you for it as a contract, because the contract can do them, a bunch of them cheaper, and then we bill you in your water rates over so many years. You don't pay it all, like if it's $2,000, you don't pay it all in one shot.
Really? We
Wait,
talked
I
about that?
We did talk about
We
that.
talked about the first part of that. I didn't.
We talked about that. We talked about that about 2 years ago, when we talked about Pine Street. And we said we could bill them like a quarter, if they had a $2,000 bill, they get a $500 bill a year, or we talked about that.
Yeah, well, I'm not
I
sure
thought
I'm
that was
agreeable
the
with that
Lawson
after
Lane.
our
That was
Lawson
the
Lane
Lawson
thing.
Right.
Well, has a bill been sent to Lawson Lane?
Yeah, sort of, the payment schedule.
So, but, because we got, to me, we're still,
We had others that were replaced that, have they been built?
right. I don't
That
know.
we got.
We got West Pleasant Street got
I
replaced.
thought
and
we
I don't know.
shouldn't be billed for them. I
No.
thought we instructed them.
I would
make sure
like to
their
do the
agreement
policy
was-
that Monroe has. I talked with them about it. They said, everybody pays for the water when you're going down through there, and if it's a galvanized, we pull it. And it goes right in with the price. Eventually, we're gonna have everybody's lines replaced in town, so everybody's gonna replace it. We don't try to, one says, no, I'm not replacing that. Let it leak. I think we ought to look at that. Did we, if we had
Our
5,
ordinance says you can't waste water.
how do you know it's
We know
wasted?
it's
How do you know it's
leaking.
wasted?
It's leaking, it's wasting.
Wasted.
We got 5 galvanized lines still on Pine Street, and we put $950,000 in that. It was $750,000. We spent more. We'd have got some state money. But if those fiber leaking, did we really improve Pine Street?
But these are the lines
did.
to the houses
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, service lines.
Service line.
I just paid to redo mine when they ripped up the main on East Street because I was like, oh, it'll be cheaper. They've dug it up.
Yeah.
So now I can get reimbursed for that.
No, you don't get reimbursed
We
for
don't
it.
get reimbursed for it. no.
Right, but these people who waited,
They won't get.
No, they won't
reimbursed.
get
No, he's
reimbursed, but
saying
they'll-
they'll get charged
Yeah.
at intervals. Like they
Okay.
won't get a $2,300 bill. They'll
Right.
get
So
First quarter
we'll-
this
Kind of
month.
like we did
pay
with
for
Boston
it.
Lane.
Correct.
And then so it's like a non-interest
Yeah,
bearing.
and it would probably be,
basically.
it would
Tighter
be cheaper
system.
than that for them, or be cheaper for us to do it for them
Mhm.
versus them hiring a contractor to come out and do it. So that would be the benefit, the encouragement.
Mhm.
I mean, the problem is we're on the hook. You know, if they don't pay us,
Right,
We're
and
on
then
the
we
hook.
have, and then we
And
have to collect all of these bills,
Right.
right? And we
I mean,
don't
that's
even
the
know if we've
problem.
Which
Which
collected.
is
I'm
the,
them.
trying
which
to
is the thing with
improve-
Boston too. We
Right.
we have the
If you're
agreements, but it's
trying-
just the
my-
collection, yeah.
My
Right,
theory is if you're trying to improve your system, what the last thing you don't fix, it's still leaking.
yep,
no, I get that, but I'm still saying, I mean, if we pay for it, we're on the hook. If they don't pay it,
That's
the
why
water
I say
people
with
are on the
what
hook.
with Middlebury's philosophy is, we put it right in the water bond. And everybody pays their water bond bill. You're paid for it that way.
Yeah.
Not just water users,
Yeah, no,
not
okay.
taxpayers.
So we could, I mean, if we
You
wanted-
wanted,
wait,
think
say
about
that again?
Hmm?
Not just water users?
No, just water users paid for Pine Street.
I mean.
Well, I know, but is that what you were saying? I thought you said.
If
not
we'd have
just
pulled those
water user
five and they would have been
taxpayers.
all
Yeah.
paid for. Everybody in town would have paid for them. Now, let's say we've got 20 of them on Maple Street, we go do Maple Street, or 10. Then everybody's gonna pay for them. Eventually,
Everybody on the water system.
Yep,
pays.
so then I
Everyone's-
should have just not
And
done
then
the
when
feeder
eventually
line and waited for the
everybody needs
East Street
new lines.
project.
Right, so we could, if we wanted to investigate that, we could look at that and correlate how many galvanized lines are in phase 2 and phase 3.
Yeah.
Of our water project, and we can see.
The other side of that is it includes easements and everything to be able to work there. I mean, there's a lot
I
more.
disagree with that at all. I'm sorry.
Huh?
I just disagree with that at all. I
Maybe
don't
we
agree with,
should
gotta
have
have an
this
easement, an
conversation.
attorney's gotta get involved. The only one's getting rich out of that's
The
the
attorney
attorney.
doesn't have to get involved. As long as you have a base easement,
Yeah.
you just need one
I
easement.
mean,
Okay.
you need to give me permission to go onto your land. I can't just do it. Cause what if you're not happy with the end product?
Right.
Well, I guess you got a point there, but I bought my house 38 years ago, and I said, I'll buy it if I get a new line, and Scott went in the basement with the old owner.
I understand that, and he was able to pull it, but what if he has to dig it up and you lose your favorite tree?
This is what
You
my
just-
students do when they want to
You
go
gotta know.
home, right?
Anyway, I entertain a motion to adjourn. We got-
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
and all those in favor?
Alright.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
all righty.
Good night, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas if we don't see you.
What?
Good luck, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Bill.
Likewise.
Thank you, guys.